This broadcast of the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series is brought to you by Malwar Transport and Assure Action Transport Expert. For oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec, visit www.malwar-transport.ca. And for an expert and professional trucking insurance firm specializing in property and casualty insurance solutions for freight across Quebec, Canada, and the United States, visit www.transportexpert.com. Good evening then, ladies and gents, and welcome back to TRTN for the coverage of the final stop here in the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series right here in Heusden, Zolder, Belgium. As always, I am Regan Clark. As mentioned there, we've made the trip across the channel into the Benelux region, away from the UK and into Belgium, right here at the heart of Heusden, Zolder, the Circuit Zolder, founded in 1963. Comprised of 10 turns and just shy of 2.5 miles of FIA Grade 2, it's in a unique spot in the ACC roster as one of its smallest tracks. The former home, or part-time home I should say, of the Belgian Grand Prix from the mid-70s to the mid-80s, and in the current day home for the European Truck Racing Championships, NASCAR Euro Series, and its hallmark event, the largest on the calendar, the 24 Hours of Zolder, that has ran for the last 42 years, since 1983. Zolder offers up a unique challenge, a very strange blend you can't seem to find anywhere else on the calendar throughout any series, let alone this one today. Taking a look at where we're at on the calendar, of course, it's the last stop, and coming up is a very exciting event. We'll get more onto the itinerary in just a moment's time. As we take a look here with Clinton Bourne on his way down towards the Kleiner Chicane, full track rundown coming up in due course. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get a look at the session itinerary. And here we have it here. It's a very unique one. We find ourselves in the midst of the first of its kind here, the triple sprint. 10 minutes of free practice, of which we're in the middle of at the moment, and then coming up is qualifying 1 and race 1, like we've seen traditionally for the last 8 or so weeks in some variety. Then quali 2 and race 2, of which we've been seeing for the last 4 weeks in the double sprint formats in the UK. And then here's the kicker, quali 3 and race 3. Now, of course, the rules still apply to what we saw out of the double sprint races. No mandatory pit stop, and the podium finishers for race 1 get only 1 flying lap in the qualifying for race 2. But then it carries, because then race 2's podium sitters get only 1 flying lap for the quali of race 3. So we have a very interesting situation coming up ahead of us here for the final stop of the championship. And even in spite of what has been absolute domination this season by Christian Lebay, 7 race wins in a row in this latter chapter of the championship, comprising what is now one of the most dominant streaks of any one driver we've put to air here. 83% win rate over 12 races and 8 rounds of competition. It has been nigh unstoppable until today. Even in spite of all of this, he still doesn't find himself with a decisive championship wrap-up until today. Looking at it here with Lebay with 419 points, it's a 73-point lead over Byron Forrest in second. These two far and away clear of the rest of the grid. As we can see, 90 points down the field is Timo de Tosto from Forest in 3rd place. Kevin Quain in 4th, with Vincent Simard in 5th. Rather compellingly here, we see 6th place for David Tangwe. He started 4 rounds down, started his championship run in Great Britain. 221 points, only 2 points off of the top 5. Alex Albert in 7th, with Richard Cecil in 8th. Dan Junior Poulon in 9th, and Julio Bahena to round out that top 10. So we cut away here just to look on board with Timo de Tosto, who is now 4th in this session at the moment, a 1:31.520, and about halfway through free practice. We're about 5 minutes out from the discussion of the first of our 3 qualifying sessions. Of course, all 10 minutes, very quick fire quali sessions, and with laps coming in at around 1.5 minutes here, it does give drivers plenty more options to play with compared to what they've had in the last couple of rounds here. Especially over the course of the British chapter. They've had 2 qualifying sessions to play with apiece, and it has proven to give us some of the most dense grids we've seen here for available talent. Such compelling qualifying stories, and of course with the introduction of those one-shot qualifiers, we have a myriad of new results, and these will be a lot more relevant when we head into race 2 and then later race 3. But getting a look at the most recent ring of one-shot quali results, we saw out of Alton Park in round 8. We saw there Lebay, Quain and Tanguay on the podium. For all three of these drivers, it was a returning visit. For Quain, his second. For Tanguay, his third. And for Lebay, his third as well. We saw Lebay, the only one to capitalise in that Alton Park second quali, as he put his car on the front row. Quain to the back of the top 10. David Tanguay sadly invalidated over his lap and ended up starting from 15th place on the grid. A far cry to what we had 2 weeks before that in Donington Park, where he went from second straight up to pole position in one fell swoop. So coming into today's session, it's going to be a unique one. Of course, as mentioned, Zolder is a very bizarre circuit when placed up against even the MSV circuits, which are not exactly the most grandiose bunch in terms of available space. This even less so. It's almost akin to a sort of Monaco track, as some discussions I've had with drivers before. The closest consensus that this is a very much so a Monaco-styled track in terms of the way it feels to race on. Not a lot of available space to play around with, and really your most open areas are going to be down here in Sector 1. We make our way out of Turn 1 into Turn 2. This area just wide enough to where the majority of your side-by-side action can happen, but as we see here, it almost acts like a funnel, because Exton Canal box at turn 3 into Lucien Bianchi box, as we see here for the 58 of Timo de Tosto, making his way out through turn 4. This is where it starts to funnel in quite rapidly. We stay on board with the number 58 down towards the Kleiner chicane. And this is from this point onwards where the track really starts to narrow up. This has effectively become the unofficial track tour as well, out through turn 6 at Butte Curve in towards Turleman box, as it used to be called the Circuit Turleman, hence the naming. And this entire complex, as we see it here, is what comprises turn 7 all the way out to this right hand curve here, the number 58, making his way down towards this run here into this open hairpin right. This is where the track starts to open up a little bit more at Boulderberg Harshbeld box at turn 8. Another overtaking opportunity, but one fairly short-lived for the very sudden introduction of the Jochen Rindt box there, turn 9. And then the turn 10 complex here, this final chicane at Jackie X box brings us down toward the line, and with just under 2 minutes left to go, that'll be among the last run of laps coming up for Timo de Tosto. If he can really get the hammer down here, he might just make it to the line with about 15 seconds to spare, giving him one more opportunity to go on to the track. Right now, after that last lap, he finds himself 5th fastest. Lebay towards the front of the pack. You can see very close to him at this time, the number 30 of David Tanguay. And I've got to say this, he started, of course, as mentioned, 4 rounds down, puts himself 6th in the championship. He's within a stone toss distance here of the top 5, and he started all of this in Great Britain at Brands Hatch in the first of our double sprint rounds. It really does go to show the value those double sprint races bring to the championship, to where starting off from that point, having a consistently solid run of things can still put you in a competitive position in the grand scheme. That top 5 is a place that a lot of people are gunning for, obviously. If they can't get the race lead or the championship lead themselves, the top 5 is still a very powerful area of the grid to find oneself on. So for the number 30 to be within such close proximity, having competed in half the number of available rounds, is quite a compelling story indeed. We see for 3rd place at the moment Vincent Simard. Now, he was late into the championship, but he a lot less so than that of Tanguay. He and Timo de Tosto, 2 drivers to have joined us in Watkins Glen, a round down after the opening round in, looking back to it on the calendar, would have been, I believe, looking at it here, Indianapolis, all the way back in October. How long ago that feels now, heading into December. Clinton Bourne 4th in the session at the moment, and he's ahead of De Tosto, who rounds things out here back into the pit lane. 5th fastest at the end of free practice before the start of one of 3 qualifying sessions to come. As we see here, Byron Forrest ends his first free practice session out just under a second away from Lebay. Bear in mind, his position in the championship is very well secure, and there are the odds coming up into this session that we will discuss in regards to how Lebay can actually tie the knot off on this championship here and end it right here and now in the runnings into race 1. So this is going to be quite a compelling chat. It's going to be quite interesting to see how all of that pans out. Nearest to the line at the moment on what appears to be a valid lap is Dan Junior Poulon. He's on his way out through Boulderberg Harshfeld box and the Jochen Rindt box in towards Jackie X at turn 10. Down towards line then goes the 44, 7th in the session at the moment. Across the line he goes to kickstart what is now 10 minutes of qualifying. Quali 1 underway. We can already see movement from the paddock. Let's get on board as we see looking to be leading that charge right off the bat. He starts to become the early bird of the Jaguar series, the number 5 of Richard Cecil. Of course, the first time I believe we ever put our cameras on this car here. It was back in his time with Alpine in the GT4 Pro-Am Cup America Series back in Season 1, the opening round in Laguna Seca. Since that point, he moved to Aston Martin, and then, of course, here with the obvious lack of available choices, we find him with Jaguar. Makes his way out through turn 4. Now, before he gets onto his flying laps, let's discuss qualifying predictions really quickly. And it's the same front row we've seen for, I think, trying to rack my brain around it, about 4 to 5 weeks now on end, where we've seen LeBay and Bourne a 1-2 rolling position right now. In terms of this, he's nearly a full second up the road, so I think this is really LeBay firing on all 8 cylinders here. He is trying to make sure absolutely no one can stand in the way of what he is going to set out to achieve today. He is hunting down his second championship, and he is going to go through hell and earth to get it. Right now finds himself just under 0.8 of a second clear of Clinton Bourne on that front row. Kevin Quain 3rd with Vincent Simard 4th, Dan Jr. Poulin in 5th, Carl Martel in 6th, Timo de Tosto 7th, Mario Rodriguez in 8th, Alex Albert 9th, and Julio Bahena in that top 10. So down towards the line as we'll stay on board with Richard Cecil to become our first time onto those charts after this lap coming. So he's first into those flying laps down through to turn 1 at Erst Corner, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a very literal translation, just means first corner. Down through Sterenwagbocht at turn 2, in towards Kanalbocht at turn 3. In towards turn 4, Lucien Bianchi box. Another sweeping right-hander. Very easy, I found, for drivers to end up in a spot of bother there, especially with the gravel to the left-hand side. Very easy to upset the balance of the car. We've seen it throughout GT3. We've seen a stab of it in GT4. We've even seen it in Porsche Cups, all to be the same relevant issue. That turn 4, running even slightly out wide, can be a death sentence. Out through turn 6, we go then into turn 7's complex of the Terlemanbocht. Possibly the most iconic part of the circuit, Zolder, is this winding area of the track up in Sector 2 on the run into Sector 3. Very satisfying to get right from a driver's side point of view. Down towards turn 8, Boulderberg-Haschbeld-Bocht. Again, a limited number of overtaking opportunities, so these 3 races have really come at a great time here, because it is going to weigh quite heavy importance on the qualifying sessions today. B, it is also going to make for very tense racing. Of course, outside of that front row, there are still a lot of positions in the championship up for grabs. There'll be drivers fighting their own battles coming into today's 3 races to follow. But across the line for the first of the times, a 1:31.375 by Richard Cecil. Then LeBay to the line, and that's 1.2 seconds up the fray. And then the 6:07 across the line to the fastest time. Kevin Quain starts things off with a bang. 1:29.682 to the fastest time of the session so far. The 77 of Rodriguez 3rd. Cecil still maintains a top 5 position for the time being. Julio Bahena makes 5th with David Tanguay in 6th place. So a very, very good start, all things considered. We've just seen across the line to start their flying laps was, by looks of it there, I think it was Alex Albert. We've just seen across the line there, Timo de Tosto intercedes the line set there between Quain and LeBay, and then getting the leg up on him by only a couple hundredths of a second is Clinton Bourne in the number 6. So a bit of an odd start here for Christian LeBay. You would have thought with the opportunity right now, not having to go the full 9 yards, going 3 races back to back to make sure the championship stays in his hands, you would have thought maybe for that first run around the track, it would have been firing on all cylinders, would have been straight up to the top of the charts there. And it was for, albeit half a second. You see there, trouble by what looks to be between, I want to say that's Veldkamp in one of those cars, but who's the second one? As we often get Dupois and De Tosto mixed up, with Dupois being down in Terlemanbocht. That does leave the likely culprit to be That of De Tosto. Cecil to the line from 6th, stays 6th. LeBay to the line from 4th, back up to pole. So, as we thought there, maybe just a little bit of a flash in the pan for the 119 in that first flying lap. A bit of a fluke for LeBay. He's now back up to that fastest time. Tanguay, second fastest, now faster than Quain and Bourne. De Tosto in the top 5 right now. The 96 coming to the line from behind them. That's Casey Malles to the line from 15th up to 11th. 36 following. That's Alex Albert, who we just missed there, trying to get on the cameras. We see Byron Forrest on his way out through Boulderberg Harshfeldbocht. As for Albert, he's 9th place. Number 6 coming across the line, Bourne from 4th to 2nd. And as you can see there, 0.02 of a second off of Christian LeBay. 4.5 minutes left to go in qualifying. Bear in mind, we get to do this 3 goes around. We're about to catch across the line there. The last time to enter the charts from 15th, Byron Forrest, and only 12th for the second place championship contender at the moment. Now, bear in mind, it is still numerically possible for Forrest to win this championship, but what it would take is 3 consecutive DNFs from LeBay. And while the math says it's possible, theory will only take you so far. Now, we do actually have the odds coming into race 1 on how LeBay can win the championship. He'd need to finish first with the fastest lap. Byron Forrest would need to finish 4th or below. Otherwise, it will carry on into race 2. Right now, with a 73-point gap, he needs to make around 8 points there. 7 to equalize, but 8 to supersede. In that case, it would be, as we've just seen across the line, David Tanguay fastest by 5 thousandths there. You're talking 3 drivers within less than 100th of a second. Just to briefly touch back on that, we need 7 points for him to lock out. But even then, it could be a case where Forrest could equalize on that. But it would be 8 to supersede it. It would be no competition past an 8-point extension over that 73 points to bring it up to 81, which would be just 1 point over the maximum he'd need. There's a maximum of 120 points in this round. If he can close it out to at least 80 by the end of race 1, there's no competition left involved. The 824 coming to the line, so that's Byron Forrest again, and a sizable leap for the number 824 across the line. 7th fastest now, as you can see, only about 0.08 of a second there off of De Tosto in 6th place. A very close competition we find on the end of that 3rd row. We're seeing into the 4th row there in P6 and P7. Next to the line at the moment, we'll catch back on board with the man who started this qualifying session, Richard Cecil, in the number 5. You can see following in his trails the 119, the 607, the 30, and the 77. So Cecil to the line here from 12th place. Then LeBay looking to regain pole position, needs 5 thousandths of a second. Cecil from 12th stays 7th. LeBay from 2nd stays 2nd. The 607 of Kevin Quain stays 4th after that last lap. The number 30 of David Tanguay doesn't extend the margin over a 129.040. Number 77 of Rodriguez to the line, up to 8th fastest after that last lap. Then Julio Bahena across the line and stays 9th. Number 120 coming to the line, Vincent Simard from the back of the top 5 here. Needs about 0.3 of a second on Quain. Is starting to close the gap down, but not by enough. He's got effectively 1 more flying lap. And if you can really push it here, maybe 2 with this one being included. The number 44 and the number 36 across the line a moment ago. Dan Junior Poulon in 10th with the 36 of Albert. Now down actually to 12th with Poulon down to 11th. As having recently made his way up into that top 10 a moment ago. Was trying to see here, because we did have a time get onto the charts. I believe it to be at this time the number 616. Yes, it was here. Andrew Veldkamp, 9th place. Still, what a remarkable top 3 we're seeing with the final minute closing upon us here in qualifying 1. 7 thousandths of a second between 3 positions is one of the most fine margins I think we've seen in qualifying for a long old time here on TRT. And I think the closest qualifying battle we've ever seen was in the Porsche Cup era of VSR Phoenix. The Donington Park qualifying ended on a joint pole position. I still hold that to be the closest finisher to a qualifying session we've ever seen, but still hanging on by a thread here. David Tanguay to 5 thousandths of a second over Christian Lebay. 30 seconds left in the session. He's got enough in the tank here for one more flying lap. So as the number 30 gets down towards the line, it's one more flying lap coming up from David Tanguay. The question therein remains, with Vincent Simard closing ground in that last lap to 4th place, now up and ahead of Kevin Quain by a factor of, looking at it there, 13 thousandths of a second right at the very end, just to make that second row start. But the real stars of the show has been that top 3, and we see here Clinton Bourne to the line, needs 2 thousandths over Lebay. Across the line goes Bourne and stays 3rd. The 119 is still out on track, so we've still yet to see if Lebay can reclaim pole position. Meanwhile, the 58 of De Tosto to the line from 6th and stays 6th at the end of Quali 1. The 119 nearest to the line then. Boulderberg Harshbeld up next for Christian Lebay. Bear in mind, he's going to need every single chance he gets here if he wants to close out the championship by the end of race 1, heading into race 2. And that will be a bit more of a fun run for him in race 2 and 3 if he's able to tie this one up. Down through turn 10 we go then. The 119 needs 5 thousandths of a second. Now we are in inhuman territory in terms of how little a span of time that is. That is far less than what it would take for Uri to react. And across the line, absolutely kicks the door open to 0.3 of a second. Lebay to fastest, up to pole on the very last run of it. But bear in mind, the number 30 is still out on track. So is there a chance for rebuttal by David Tanguay? It has been a fierce qualifying session right at the final stop of the championship, and kicking things off then, it's second fastest for Tanguay at the end of first qualifying. Bear in mind, 2 more quali sessions for a potential pole position out of Tanguay. That's on the chances he doesn't end up in the run of the one-shot qualifiers, and if he does, can he replicate the magic he had a few weeks ago in Donington Park? What an end to qualifying we find ourselves in then, and that's only the first of 3 chances we have. Looking back to that session itinerary, you'll be reminded that this is the triple sprint format, so we're just at the end of Quali 1 into Race 1 in a moment's time. 30 minutes of action here in Zolder. Then we get to do it all over again, Quali 2 and Race 2, with the podium finishes of Race 1 getting that single one-shot qualifier flying lap. And then for Race 2, we'll be seeing those podium sitters do the same routine in through Quali 3 for the start of Race 3 and effectively the end of the championship. But as it stands, Lebay to pole position in Quali 1, Tanguay 2nd, Bourne 3rd, Simard 4th, Quain 5th. We'll get the full grid in a moment's time. Having a look at some articles of news coming into today's race, we do have 2 articles of news, one from the world of Formula 1, the other one from the world of World Rally. As we see here, 3 minutes to the formation lap. Let's get the news out of the way, though. In Formula 1, Portimao is set to return in 2027 and 2028, replacing Zandvoort. And in the World Rally Championship, John Armstrong is set to join Rally 1 in 2026 for Ford M Sport. Now, alongside him in that will be his co-driver Shane Byrne. As for what's happened to last season's driver Gregoire Munster, he's gone over to Dakar, joining Jordan Serdaridis in the Raptor for 2026's World Rally Raid Championship. Looking at the grid for today, though, we found ourselves with 1 driver less on the grid, as it started with 15 cars, and now we see a grid of only 40. We see reconnecting to the session, it appears to be the 96 of Casey Miles, starting now from the back. Rather sadly for him, there is qualifying endeavours come to a very short stop. We'll have the 2 more opportunities later on today to make true on that. Lebay from pole position then, with Tanguay alongside him on the front row for the first of 3 grids today. Clinton Bourne in 3rd place, and alongside him on that second row in 4th, Vincent Simard in the number 120. Kevin Quain wraps out the top 5 there, with Timo de Tosto joining him on the 3rd row. Byron Forrest on the 4th row in 7th place, and alongside newcomer to the grid, we've only seen him in the last couple of weeks here, Mario Rodriguez in the number 77. Andrew Velkamp in 9th place. Rounding out the top 10 we find here is Alex Albert, and he finds himself in 10th in the number 36. Behind him, Julio Bahena, and rounding out that 6th row, 12th place for Dan Junior Poulon, Richard Cecil 13th, and Christophe Dupois in 14th. And as we've seen, they're reconnecting to grid 1 today for race 1. Is Casey Miles starting in 15th place. 1 minute left to go then before the formation lap, and this could be very, very exciting. Of course, the chances sit right there in front of the 119 right now, in the most powerful position he could be in. bear in mind, bringing back up those odds for him to solidify the championship coming into this race. He's already got that starting position. All he need to do is fend off Tanguay through the first run of corners and start to break away a gap later down the line. Moreover, he also needs that fastest lap. As for Forrest, he needs to make 3 positions in order to stop this from happening. Otherwise, if he can't finish in 4th, actually, he's going to look to be making more realistically 4 positions if he means to stay in this fight, as if it's 4th or below with first and the fastest lap going to LeBay, that's the championship wrapped up. So 30 seconds onto the formation lap. We'll catch on board then with the pole sitter, the 119 of Christian LeBay, taking us away for the final 3 races of the Jaguar GT3 Revival Series. Now, we're delighted to say there is some potential projects coming up this weekend, actually, is the commemorative start of the if I'm trying to remember the names precisely here, but there is a winter series, is the brief synopsis for Competizione Performance League coming up later on this week. It'll be starting towards Sunday, then the next Sunday after that, and then the next Saturday after those two on January 3rd being the final round. A 3-parter series, which we may very well be covering here on TRTN. Still in the workings on that one, but right now what we do have is a little bit of an interesting story from the grid there, as we see starting from the pit lane is Rodriguez from 8th place. Now starts from the pits. That's freed up space in the middle of this 15 car grid. Now, watching with LeBay as we make our way through this formation lap, we start to get a little bit of a slowed down perspective of things over the areas of the track most likely to see action. Of course, the entirety of Sector 1 is often, no matter the classification, a battleground here in Zolder, especially on the opening laps of any race, no matter its length. So out through Turn 4 is where we could see things build back up, as drivers do love to get side by side on the run down into the perilously tight Kleiner chicane down at Turn 5. We've seen things get very sour, very ugly in that section, and considering we're dealing with already what is quite a rowdy crowd of Jaguars, these are rough around the edges GT machines. They are very, very difficult to work with, so it's been told. And moreover, being the older generation of GTs, they are quite the wide assortment. So not a lot of available space to get side by side in the aptly named Kleiner chicane, a literal translation, the little chicane. In through Turn 6 then, Butte curve, in towards Terlemenbot. This area, of course, very rare to see side-by-side action. That's not to say we've seen none at all. Side-by-side action, in fact, we did manage to get back in the GT4 Pro-Am Cup America series, if I'm not mistaken. Round this section was quite an entertaining watch back in Season 1. One of the most iconic moments of the championship, if memory serves correctly. I think it was here at Zolder. Heading down towards, it actually might not have been the Pro-Am Cup, it might have actually been another GT4 series, that being the HCCL GT4 Challenge. Regardless though, we've seen some very exciting moments from the lower classification cars in this track. Little less so on the side of the GT3s. Now, I think last event we were here in the GT3 cars was back in the dawn of Season 2 of the NLRL Console Endurance Series, the then 6 hours of Zolder, now historically the 5 hours of Zolder. But today, it's the final stop for the Jaguar GT3 Revival Series, and first of 3 races coming up in due course. 30 minutes against the clock then, and now we've heard 2 cars from the pit lane. First Rodriguez and now Albert, is taking us down to the line on what is going to be a slightly reduced grid on the road itself, with 2 from the pit lane. 30 minutes against the clock here for race 1 of 3 at round 9 of the championship. Without further ado, we're green and racing for the first of 3 times today, and a great getaway from the front row. And as we can see there, very lively start as well from the second row. Up the inside, Clinton Bourne already moving to attack there over Vincent Simard. We see Kevin Quain also getting the leg up there on what appears to be the 120 in the background. You can see the 607 now bleeding up into 4th place. For LeBay, though, it's been a little less than an apt start. We see in the background as well, trouble for the 39 and the 5. That's Christophe Dupois and Richard Cecil at the start of this race. Trouble down at turns 1 and 2. For LeBay, it's not been a super comfortable start because normally he can break away a decent distance here. But as you can see, looking to pressure almost immediately is David Tanguay. And Clinton Bourne runs all the way out in towards the Kleiner chicane, forced onto the gravel, runs over his brakes, had very little ability to slow the car down there. Let's get a look at that on the replays as we still see the fight going down into Terleman box. This is what happened for Clinton Bourne. Just ran over the brakes, couldn't find any room of it there, just took himself into the gravel. Pretty safe and sound option, kept himself out of harm's way. We do see that a lot, and very rarely do we see it handled so well. So very well done to the number 6 there. That is the really the do's of what you should do in that situation, as opposed to the don'ts that we have seen many times before. LeBay, though, now we can start to see that prophesized gap break away here for the 119. The number 30 now forced into the sights of the 607 of Kevin Quain, looking to take up the slack here on a fight of second place. It was a great start for the 607, all things considered. He's fourth in a championship, looking at a stab here over Timo de Tosto. He's only 2 positions behind him as we speak in that 58. Very close gap between those two. Still a fight to be had for the podium of the championship. Moreover, there is also the discussion of the podium in the race itself, so rather fittingly for those two. We see here for Dan Junior Poulon, 8th place at the moment, up the road from Andrew Veldkamp. You can see Byron Forrest already gaining some steam there on Julio Bahena. Now for Forrest, there is still the chance to be numerically within the championship fight and to keep things lively on the run into race 2, but he's got quite the work cut out for him. You can see the gap start to open up between Bahena and De Tosto. That chance to be up in 4th or above slipping away in the first 3 minutes. Right now, he's just got to dial in and focus on the number 18 car in front of him there for 6th place. Looking up into the top 5, we're starting to seeing some action here between the 120 and the 58. De Tosto versus Simard on their way through Terleman. Meanwhile, the 119 still breaking away from the 30. So for LeBay, this is all coming very full circle for him here in towards Boulderberg Harshfield box. We can see already the physical gap, easily a couple of car lengths between the leading pair as pressure continues to mount there on Tanguay with the presence of Kevin Quain right over his rear bumper. Moreover, it's starting to become what could be a bit of a strange mirror match here of what we saw on the Sunday League. 4 cars in competitive stead for a podium position. This could get quite entertaining here if Alton Park was any prelude to the action we could see for the Jaguars today. 4 really does seem to be the magic number in a lot of these fights, less so than 3. Or more so than 3. See here for Julio Bahena, pressure coming from behind here, the 824 and the 44 closing distance now. Both Byron Forrest and Dan Junior Poulon looking to take a stab here at 6th place. The opening 4 minutes have given us a pretty solid start, all things considered. Now for the number 6, we want to try and catch on board here as we see him out past the 616. So for Clinton Bourne, he was up in those top 5 positions from the race start. Things just got a little bit hairy on the first run down into the Kleiner chicane. He'll be hoping for troubles up the road to give him a few easier chances to make his way further up through the top 10. We can see behind the number 5 and the number 96 getting into arms here, so we will catch on board with those two. That would be Richard Cecil and Casey Malles in a fight for 11th place on the way down through Terleman. Out past them there, you can see the 36 Alex Albert, the 39 of Christophe Dupois. Number 77 of Rodriguez actually starting to catch up through turn 6. There is a chance there of fighting towards the back of the field. We see Bourne just up the road from Cecil as he continues to fight with Malles. In that last lap, 129.065 to a 129.290, so already up 0.2 of a second for Christian LeBay in that last lap just gone. 25 minutes left to go. Already the opening 5 minutes have torn away the leading 2 away from the rest of the field. We can see a sizable gap has now since formed between Tanguay and Quain, and this is bad news for the 607. It's left him without a lifeline here in the form of the number 30, making his way down through turn 4. He is now firmly in the targeting sights of that 120. Vincent Simard gunning for a podium here. Of course, he will be finding himself a victim of his own success coming into Quali 2 if he is to try and make his way to 3rd place. Meanwhile, out back, you can see fighting there between what looks to be Bahena and Forest. Catching on board here, Byron Forest fighting with Julio Bahena. Now, this is in the stead of 6th place, making their way down through the Turn 7 complex. A little bit of an awkward run there for the number 18. Bear in mind, it's going to be a lot of push, a lot of pull here. And if they can't make a wriggle on in through Turn 7, that number 44 behind them, Dan Jr. Poulon, can have an easy stab at the position. Both of them are currently scrapping over. 6th place is soon to become a 3-car fight. Meanwhile, up the road, Simard v DeTosto v Quain is starting to become a very likely possibility in the next couple of laps here. We're still watching with Forest. Of course, every position counts for him this time around, as that curtain for the championship is starting to descend, as we're already just over 6 minutes into this first race. See here, the 18 going full defensive in through Sturrenwacht. It's not done him many favors. We see the number 44 in the background had a real problem there. That was Dan Jr. Poulon, drops to 10th place. We're still watching the fight here, Forest v Bahena. This has been quite an entertaining one so far. Up the line, things are still relatively tame inside of the top 5. DeTosto, Simard and Quain all looking to contend for a shot at the podium here. Meanwhile, the 119 of LeBay and the number 30 of Tanguay have just completely broken away from the remainder of that top 5 in a world of their own. Much to the same for these two. They find themselves very far distance from both the top 5 and the remainder of that top 10. So in through tournament box again, Forest still in pursuit, trying to find a way up the inside here, but the number 18 has been very stubborn to give him those opportunities that he's been searching for. It's going to take a real stroke of luck and the element of surprise to give Forest that opening that he's been searching for here. Out through Boulderberg Haspelbocht, just sticking himself to the racing line, knowing all of this defensive luck isn't going to last for too long in the favour of Julio Bahena. He's trimming away momentum, and with the recent incident there for the 44, forcing an even larger wedge between Forest and the car behind, he's got every amount of time here to work with. He's got the amount of space necessary to allow the 18 to run himself aground. Moreover, we can see there in that last lap, even despite all of it, and this is a rather surprising statistic, 0.2 faster on that last lap was Bahena. Even in spite of the fact that it seems pretty self-evident now the 824 is being held up in some respect. Now, this is not full discredit to what Bahena's been able to do, but you can see there have been moments of fright there out of the number 18, especially down through the Turleman box section of turn 7. He's definitely had to quickly recuperate on his losses there, and he's not been taking the most optimal of lines. This has been a driver definitely with his elbows out today. So for Bahena, he's not letting go of 6th place. He's not going to make this a walk in the park for the 824 Byron Forest, as he's with every right to do so. In through turn 6 we go. And this is majorly one of the concerns a lot of drivers have coming into Zolder. Very difficult to make up ground in this race. It can either take strokes of luck, it can take incidents from the drivers ahead, or it can take some rather terrifyingly fast moves at the inside. As you can see there, the number 18 knows precisely what the 824 is planning on, so Forrest just can't find his way up the inside in through one of what is a handful of available overtaking spots to do so. What it really does strengthen then, much like tracks like the Monaco circuit, is the qualifying positions, the importance of those qualifying positions. You see a little bit of contact out through turn 10 between those two. That's really, I think, the highest we're going to see of action in that ongoing fight for 6th. So let's cut away from them just briefly to analyse what's going on here in the fight of 3. Quain, Simard and DeTosto all separated by nearly exactly a second from one another. Just one moment here as we do see moving aside by looks of it there, Casey Malles over Alex Albert, now up to 12th place for the 36th, the number 96 down to 13th. So that's a very bizarre one. We see out back, much to the same, that there has been a fight between 3 cars in the top 5. We're seeing here just towards the back of the top 10. We are also seeing the same story. This time, Dan Jr. Poulon, who's now moved up away from 10th to 9th place, much to the chagrin of Richard Cecil. We see on screen in the middle of this fight, the number 5 in 10th, then behind him, Andrew Velkamp in 11th. We're getting a real story of 3s here, and that theme only continues to build when you realise there's 3 pairs of 3 cars fighting for position on this track at the moment. And moreover, the round number, if we really want to get proper conspiratorial, I mean, it is divisible by 3. 3, a big running theme of today. Quickly tabbing away to see what the scope of things is up at the front row, and you can see just how far and away they have disappeared from the rest of the field. In that last lap, Tanguay only off by 75 thousandths of a second to the time set by LeBay. And this is an interesting one to note, because if we take a look around for the telemetry here, Tanguay has the fastest lap of 1:29.007 in the number 30. That's a rather remarkable one there. Of course, it is playing a pretty heavy hand in what goes into LeBay's championship hopes to solidify things here in round 9, race 1. Bear in mind, I think what's happening in front of us right now is more than enough for the 119. He needed Forrest to finish 4th or below. Right now, he's in 7th. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place here, with Bourne pressuring from behind in the number 6, with Bahena on stern defense in the number 18. It is not an easy position for the 824 to make any significant advancements, especially when considering where we're at. Zolder is the perfect defending track. If you can qualify in the position, believe me, there is no better track to be on in order to defend that position off. It is podium central for those who can even qualify there. If you can have a brilliant qualifying form, it doesn't matter what your race is looking like, because it is astronomically harder in this place to get overtakes in than it is to stop them. Now throw that against a circuit that we saw over the course of the last couple of rounds, say a few rounds back towards the end of the American chapter, where we would take a look back at the circuit of the Americas. Much easier to get an overtake in than it is to defend for one. It's a much wider track in comparison to this. We see things come to a head here. The number 6 run over the curbs, loses a little bit of steam. There was that look up the inside by the 824 on the exit of Boulderberg-Hartspielbocht. Right now, he's stuck again reluctantly behind that number 18. Faster on the last lap by quite a significant way there, about 4/10 over the number 18, almost pushing him out through Erst corner in towards Sternwacht. And it's contact between the pair, a sizable shunt. The number 18 is still going. So getting a look there on the instant replays, it was a pretty hefty barge. I don't think intentional, of course. I think it was a case he wasn't expecting the 18 to get down on the anchors like that. We can see very little time at all for him to react. That did look pretty early, I'd say, compared to the last couple of laps between those two. You could definitely make the argument that that was a bit lofty there. We see, though, just coming back into the live footage, in that time, Forrest drops position out to both Bourne and loses even more set away from Bahena. The two ran wide out through the Kleiner chicane. So this has gone from bad to worse here for Byron Forrest. Now, that's not to take away from what has been one of, if not his best seasons in a championship here on the Competizione Performance League. He was 4th in the GT4s. His best result of that season was 4th place. Right now, he finds himself 2nd, far and away from the rest of the field to having anyone challenge him for that position. And his best finish in this season has been a race win. We've just got wind as well in the middle of this conversation that the 96 is out of race 1 after an incident down at, I believe there was the Kleiner chicane, turn 5. Big trouble then for Casey Miles by the looks of it there. The 96 out of race 1, with any hopes to see him in qualifying 2 in about 16 minutes time. We see up the road that Clinton Bourne has started to pick up the pace here. That number 6 was, of course, inside of the top 5 for the race start. We just got word as to what exactly happened there for Casey Miles. It was not due to an incident on the track, more so an incident off track, an emergency outside of the race has forced the 96 to withdraw. We see here trying to round the outside. It's very lofty for Clinton Bourne. 2 wheels on the gravel. He was doing a bit of a rally cross run of it. You can see challenging for the position there. Bahena is not making this one easy at all. He's up the inside and nearly side by side all the way through. This does invite in Byron Forrest to come and have a go out through turn 6 around the outside on the number 6 of Clinton Bourne. So things have just stepped up a notch, and it's even more contact again between the 824 and the 18. This one looked a lot more brazen than the last. The cameras were a little short to follow out through turn 6. What on earth happened there? Super late on the brakes, if any brakes at all. The 824 collided with the 18. You can see the 18's come to a complete dead stop at the end of that replay. We'll have to check in to see if the 18 is still in this race. Yes, it is, behind the number 36 at the moment of Alex Albert, but ahead of the 77 of Mario Rodriguez. So that has been a very recent stroke of drama in the grid there. Forrest now 7th place, so he's back at square one with a new face up front of him, that being Bourne in 6th place. We've seen as well for Timo de Tosto, he's dropped to what looks to be the top 5. No, actually, it's the same position, but we were briefly told he was 3rd. We can see there on the charts to our left-hand side, there's been a few graphical glitches, so our mistake. He's not dropped to anything. He's stayed in 5th place. Nothing has changed from there. Simard 4th, Quain 3rd, Tanguay 2nd, LeBay 1st. You see here for Alex Albert, there's been quite a major scuffle on the front of his car there. He's 11th place. Bahena into the pit lane, so the number 18 is in after that impact down at Terleman. Very, very bizarre stuff then to have happened in this race. It has been very, very high tensions. Bahena is in. The question therein remains after an incident like that, with just over half of the race being covered so far. Is there a chance that the 18 will come back out? Well, we'll check in later on to see here. Right now, we're watching with Richard Cecil. He's back into the top 10. 9th place for the number 5 and fighting for 8th against Dan Jr. Poulon on the exit of turn 7. In towards turn 8 we go. Things have been very, very hectic here. Of course, tensions at sky-high limits for this round. A lot of championships set to be decided here. A lot of battles set to have their victors and their losers. So really the case is for a lot of these drivers is how far are they willing to push? How far are they willing to go? How much do they want to risk in this race? Bear in mind, of course, with no shortage of bountiful options. 3 races, all of which 39 points for the race win. It's all standard points configuration thereafter. Out through turn 1, the number 5 chasing on the 44 into turn 2. In the background there, the 616 losing a little bit of steam, nearly 4 seconds away. Andrew Velkamp in 10th place at the moment. So having a look at things here, just briefly touching on this fight as things are looking to hot up in the podium fight for Simard v Quain. We'll stay on board with these two as we recount the current standings. With 2 cars in the pit lane, Albert and Bahena. We see now LeBay leads, Tanguay 2nd with the fastest lap. Kevin Quain 3rd, Vincent Simard on your screens here in the dark blue Emil Frey Racing number 120 Jaguar is in 4th. Timo de Tosto, you can see there in the white 58, just out back, 5th place. Clinton Bourne in 6th. Byron Forrest in 7th. Dan Jr. Poulon in 8th. Richard Cecil 9th. Andrew Velkamp in 10th. Mario Rodriguez in 11th. Christophe Dupois 12th. And of course in the pit lanes at the moment, 2 injured Jaguars, 1 over the nose and 1 over the rear. The 36 of Alex Albert and the number 18 of Julio Bahena. 1 car out of this race, Casey Malles in the 96. So from the reasons we've been told by Malles, it's not likely we'll be seeing that 96 into qualifying too. Of course, if emergencies do come up in the real world, that is, of course, the highest available importance. So we totally understand the reasoning behind that. The number 5 has a bit of bother there out through turn 1. Struggling to keep wind with the 44. He's going to be bleeding time away. Just an awkward run through Sternwacht into Kanalbocht. He's all the way out past the apex. He's losing a lot of momentum here. 0.9 of a second. We could be seeing that drop into a full second by the time they get down to the Kleiner chicane. See though, he's recovered just a little bit of it there through turn 4 at the Lucien Bianchi box. Out back, we can see a little bit of a stagger there for one such car. Now, looking on the maps, that would be the number 36. So Albert is back out. He's repaired the damages to his car. Emerges in 13th place. 10 minutes left to go here in race 1. There's a bit of a stagger on his way out, but he's back onto the field. See, though, for the 18 right now, Julio Bahena, still no word on if he will emerge to the grid by the end of this race. At the best of times, he'll be in 14th. For the race finish. 10 minutes left to go. The current standings have it that if we finish in the way that we are at the moment, with Forrest 7th, LeBay 1st, irrespective of a fastest lap, LeBay will take the championship here in the Jaguar GT3 Revival Series. So the stakes are at an all-time high between the leading pair. They're far and away cut from the rest of the grid in terms of their points yield. We're watching here with Richard Cecil and Dan Jr. Poulon. Their fight still rages on. I believe they're looking at the data faster of the two, with Cecil in the number 5, making their way down through turn 2. Into turn 3 we go. Of course, one of the most iconic fixtures of Zolder is its placement amongst a wind farm. You can see the large turbines out to your left as you make your way through turns 2 and 3. Ooh, a bit out wide there for Sisu. He's got to be very careful of the walls coming up on his left-hand side. It's good to avoid it this time around. We've seen some heavy impact out through that area before in various different championships. That is a no-go area. That little kick out to the left on the exit of Turleman. Things are starting to simmer down just a touch here in race 1 of 3 today. Now, bear in mind, with the drivers getting more and more acclimatized to the track, we can expect intensity across the grid, across the board here, to go up and up in race 2s and 3. Still one fight to consider, though, having simmered down just a little bit here. Is Vincent Simard versus Kevin Quain. 1.3, about 1.4, nearly 1.5 seconds at the worst of times. A little bit of a run out through the gravel could actually solidify the hopes of that for the 607 on the way down to Boulderberg Haschwildbach at turn 8. And yes, you can see there 1.5 seconds, 1.6 seconds there just as they got onto the brakes in towards turn 8. So Quain slowly drifting away from Vincent Simard. Now, if we see the podium to the line as it stands right now, Lebay, Tanguay and Quain, we are all looking at repeat offenders to the one-shot qualifying system to bring that back up, and we'll bring it back up in about 7.5 minutes time again when we get into said one-shot qualifying sessions. This will be Tanguay, looking at it here, this will be Tanguay's 4th, it'll be Lebay's 4th, and it'll be Quain's, by looking at it here, 3rd visit to the one-shot qualifying system if they are to finish as they are. For Vincent Simard, he'll miss out on the opportunity. You can see they're running out wide into turn 2, sorry, into turn 3. Very easy to get the two mixed up from the angle of the cameras there. We do see trouble. The yellow flags are out at the moment for the 39. It's Christophe Dupois. Now, I think to try and piece together what's happened for the 39 there, he's tucked in on the first part of tournament and has turned the car in towards those crash barriers. Fortunately, no one is seemingly harmed from that one, albeit the 39 has been dropped down now down to 12th place, a significant distance away from Mario Rodriguez in 11th. So for Christophe Dupois, you can see with a relatively undamaged Jaguar, he's still got the green light to fight the next 6.5 minutes to the checkered flag, albeit he'll be finishing, by looks of it here, best of times in 12th place, unless something seriously untoward happens to the 77 up the track from him at the moment. That's Rodriguez, 31 seconds up the road, and to go some distance to explain how far a gap that is physically on the track, well, as we made our way out of turn 10, Rodriguez made his way out of turn 4 on the next lap up, so it's nearly half the track, nearly. A sizable portion, say 33%, like a good third of the track. Just scoping this up, Lebay dropped a dramatic wad of time in that last lap. 0.8 he dropped away from Tanguay in terms of overall pace. So are we about to see here a potential stroke of brilliance from the number 30? David Tanguay looks to be pace-wise in well within the chances to fight for a race win. Bear in mind, he started with half the season not covered for. He started in the British chapter in the first of 2 races in Brands Hatch. He was able to deliver on what was a frankly magical one-shot qualifier in Donington. I think the only thing that would solidify the deal, that would sweeten the deal for him here, would be a race win. And with the chances right now, looking at the pace here, Lebay having dropped now to within 2 seconds of the number 30, could it have just been a bit of a fluke incident for the leading 119, or could it be perhaps a little bit of a prelude to what could come up in race 2 and 3 for David Tanguay? He's clearly got the pace for it. There's no denying that part. on his way out through Boulderberg-Harschfeld box with just under 5 minutes left to go in race 1. As it stands right now, we're 5 minutes away from being able to crown Christian Lebay a 2-time Competizione Performance League champion. First out of the GT4s, now in the Jaguars. And if we want to get on to wider accolades, I believe this is the 4th time coming. We'll have seen Lebay to the top step of the championship right at the very end here. Before, I think the first one we got from him was the... Now, bear in mind, this is just what we've covered. This is not a total aggregate of the amount of championships we've seen this driver have in general. This is of what we've been able to cover. This is his 4th championship with us. So that would have been Sunday League Season 1 with Aston Martin. It would have been... GT4 Pro-Am Cup America Series with Chevrolet, GT4 Challenge with Chevrolet, and now today, Jaguar GT3 Revival, of course, with Jaguar. Now, to bring back up as well as we enter the final 4 minutes of competition, there is, of course, something that has been going on in the background for some time over the course of this season, and that is the prize draw. Now, to bring this back up, this is as according to what the information provides on the SimGrid page for this championship, that they are giving away 2 high-quality pair of Fast Goose Sim racing gloves of the size and special order specifications of 2 of the winning participants. Now, to be eligible for this draw, you will have your name entered in the barrel and must have participated in at least 8 of the 9 events, and having completed all 8 of those by having crossed the finish line. So no DNFs allowed in this circumstance. You have to make it to the checkered flag. Now, the draw, so I'm told, will be streamed live for participants on the Competizione Performance League Discord channel. So this is an internal process, but it is going to be exciting to see who ends up winning that, and we'll be able to report that either by the end of this broadcast, or more realistically will be on our next broadcast with the folks of the Competizione Performance League in this potential upcoming winter series starting this weekend. We'll speak more on that towards the end of today's broadcast. Right now, though, 2.5 minutes left to go. David Tangway did have but a moment here to fight for that race lead, but it has wilted away in his hands. He's now 4 seconds away from the 119 as we enter the final rung of laps in race 1. In spite of the incident we saw earlier, Byron Forrest is still going with that damaged nose cone. 7th place, 11.5 seconds now from Clinton Bourne. It seems that maybe this one is just a race to forget for him, but definitely not a championship to forget. He can still hold his head high, knowing it has been a story of uphill progress here. Has been constantly looking up, looking towards the next step of things. When we first saw his performance in the GT4s, back in his time there, best performance we got out of him throughout that season was about 4th place, just shy of the podium, never quite in the bronze position, but always there in the top 5. So to have seen him not only take podiums this season, but his first ever championship race win, and to be 2nd in the championship, that's 2 positions up from where he ended things last time around in his time with Porsche. It has been a real roundabout story here for Byron Forrest. Maybe a race to forget today, as this has been the final nail in the coffin and his chances to stay within that fight for the championship title with Lebay. But all is not yet lost for him. There are still 2 more races to come from today. He can still round things out with perhaps even more race wins under his belt by the time the checkered flag drops for the last time at race 3. 1 minute left to go then, so we're on to the final rung of flying laps by looks of it. We'll be waiting to see here what the current running verdict for the 119 is. Of course, that will be the current marker for where the race ends, with about 54 minutes, not 54 minutes, 50 seconds. Well, I was supposed to say 54 seconds, but obviously the timer's come away from us there. Left in this. There could just about be 1 more flying lap to be served here out of Christian Lebay before the end of race 1. Bear in mind, don't go anywhere. We've got another race coming up after qualifying 2, and then another one after that in qualifying 3. So we're in for the long haul here, right in the final rung of it. The last hurdle of the championship, the last stop, as it were, right here in Heuston Zolder. It's been a sensational first of 3 races here in Zolder, and I believe by looks of it we're in a treat for 1 more lap around the track. So we'll cut away from Lebay as he makes his way down towards the checkered line. You can see in the background things hotting up between Simard and a lapped Dupois. that quickly simmers down. We see Poulon being intercepted by the number 5 of Richard Cecil. There could be a last lap dash to be had between the 44 and the 5, all in contention of 8th place. Bear in mind, they're starting to gain ground at the last couple of laps here on that 8.24, 2.3 seconds and closing to Byron Forrest. So had this been a little longer in today's race 1 of 3, they could have been in a position, both of them involved, to be fighting for 7th place. Alas, they'll be content to fight for 8th. We'll stay on board with these two as long as we can. We're on board with Dan Jr. Poulon and Richard Cecil. The ongoing fight right into the last lap we go then, with the final lap now dawning upon these two. You can see just how close pace has been, about 700ths and 3,000ths between the pair over the course of that last lap alone. So incredibly tight stuff between the number 44 and the number 5 as they make their way out through turn 2 into turn 3. The 36 with a mild issue there, temporary white flags for Albert on his way down towards turn 10. That's since resolved itself. We'll be cutting away from these two to get on board with LeBay in just a moment's time here, as not too far from now, not only is he looking at his 8th race win in a row, we're on board with LeBay making his way around turn 10, as he has done more than enough in this instance by the way it stands at the moment as he hits the checkered flag. Not only is it his 8th race win in a row over the course of this season, winning here for the first of 3 races in Zolder, but we'll wait for the final verdict of it all as we see across the grid now. Tanguay second, a remarkable result for him there. Quain third. So these three all seeing returns to the one-shot qualifying structure into Quali 2. Vincent Simard on a great performance today. 4th place. Timo de Tosto in a solid top 5. Clinton Bourne lamenting what could have been of today's race is good and proper to be turning things around into a top 10 result. That's 6th place for the Australian there. The number 6 across the line ultimately could have been on the podium, but one simple run off the brakes was more than enough to sell himself short for that race. We see down towards line then. There's your confirmation of it. Across the line, 7th place. So by numerical technicality, we find it now. Not only has LeBay won in the first of 3 races here in Zolder, but he has done more than enough now to take his 2nd on-air championship here in the Competizione Performance League. He did it once with Chevrolet, and now he does it twice with Jaguar. And a brilliant season for him. He came into today's round with 83% of all races won this season. Of 12 races ran over 8 rounds. Coming into today, it has been a solid performance all around for Christian LeBay. Having a look at those previous wins, this will be one more onto that tally. So taking a look here, of 12 races, he's won, looking at that there, 10 of them. This is race win number 11. Absolutely bizarre there, looking at it. That's 8 race wins in a row, starting from the 2nd of 2 in Brands Hatch over in Kent at round 5, and bringing us to the first of 3 races today here in Zolder. And the chances still sit for LeBay, even ahead of this accolade, that he could bring this up to a potential. And now this is really high in the bookings here. Of course, now 8 wins in a row, 2 more races. Could he do double figures here? 10 race wins in a row and the championship title on the same day? It's definitely out there, but I wouldn't say impossible. So the bottom line for race 1 of 3, Christian LeBay, your winner, and moreover the champion of the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series, powered by Malwa Transport and Assure Action Transport Expert. Don't go anywhere. The championship may be wrapped up, but today's ensemble of racing is anything but. Taking a look back into the itinerary, we've just come out of race 1, heading into Quali 2 and race 2. Of course, to remind you of the regulations, podium finishers from race 1 get only 1 flying lap in the qualifying for race 2, and that logic will loop in on itself at the end of race 2, as those podium sitters will get 1 shot in qualifying 3. And then race 3 will signify the end of what has been a very bizarre yet very entertaining championship here on the Competizione Performance League. Never before would anyone have told me that Jaguars could have made such a brilliant single-make series. But today, as well as over the course of 8 weeks of competition, we've been shown what for. And the Emil Frey XK G3 by Jaguar may just be a hidden gem in the ACC lineup. So taking a look at it there's your full run of results to your left-hand side, and more poignantly is the topic of our top 3. Christian LeBay, David Tanguay, and Kevin Quain. By looks of it, they're an all-Canadian podium, and by looks of it, they're For some of them, their fourth return to the one-shot qualifiers. For others, their third. So this is a real story of repeat offenders heading into qualifying 2. All 3 of these drivers will only get one opportunity, whether it validates or not, to put times on the chart in Quali 2. And that will carry on into Quali 3 later down the line. More on that in due course. One of the major takeaways from all of that, of course, it was definitely a stressor of the importance of braking, as we saw in the case of Clinton Bourne. One slight mistake on the brakes there, and that took away his chances to fight for the podium with Quain, with Tanguay, and by proxy as well with Simard and De Tosto in the wider scope of the top 5. And he'll not be making that same mistake twice. Had I know anything about Clinton Bourne's performance this season and last in the GT4s, he's not the kind of driver to make the same mistake at the same spot of the track twice in a row. Heading into qualifying, we could definitely expect to see a little bit more of a frustrated performance by Bourne. He'll be looking to capitalise on what's going on here as we head now into qualifying 2. So for Tanguay, for LeBay, and for Quain, there's your 3 stressing points there. One-shot qualifying performance is set to follow in today's session. First into the fray, just as it were back at the start of the first qualifying session, the number 5 of Richard Cecil. Let's catch on board with the number 5 and get on board with him, as we see already movement there from Behena and Rodriguez, also making their way out of the field here. Cecil down through turn 2 into turn 3. Information from the grid, the 58 coming out as well. That is Timo De Tosto. Also information from the grid, Clinton Bourne on his way out. And so too is the number 120 by looks of it. So that would be Vincent Simard, the 44. Dan Junior Poulin coming out. And so too is Christophe Dupois in the 39. So we do have a pretty sizable ensemble of cars. Now, it's going to have to be one played tactically here in Zolder. It's one of the easiest tracks to end up in traffic in qualifying and in the race itself, as we saw back in the now 5 hours of Zolder on the Console Endurance Series a few months ago. So for the drivers on those one-shot qualies, and this is going to carry 2 times over in today's racing sessions, it's going to be quite important in terms of positioning on that field. They do not want to be caught up by any circumstances here by anyone either on an out lap or on an in lap or anywhere in between the flying lap conditions. They do not want to have to battle during this. They get one opportunity and it has to be played very close to the chest. We see there Kevin Quain, one of our one-shot qualifiers, has made their way out of the field. We will be catching on board with them in due course. Right now we're on with Richard Cecil, who started off qualifying 1, now starts off qualifying 2, has become the early bird. As we all know the saying, the early bird gets the worm. Well, will the number 5 be able to get into the top 3 amidst the one-shot qualifying by serious qualifying heavy hitters such as Quain, such as Tanguay, and such as LeBay? For Clinton Bourne, I would definitely say it is a very likely chance today for the number 6, with 2 available opportunities to supersede if he can't make podium in race 2. For the number 6 to take a pole position, potentially to elevate that to a race win, because as we've seen, defending is much easier at this track. This is a very one-sided affair. Number 6 is back into the paddock, so I'm told they're ran into a spot above the exiting. The number 5 in through to Terlemenbocht, still on with Richard Cecil. Now, to bring back up what things have been looking like for one-shot qualifiers, some serious results to bring up to the table there, because it's going to make for a very interesting session indeed. You take a look at it, LeBay has in the last couple of one-shot qualifying appearances, he has never once did a qualifying session that did not put him on the podium, or at the very least towards the back of the front row. His worst one-shot qualifier was 3rd place in Donington Park. Looking for Tanguay, it's a bit of a mixed bag here, difficult to bring up the data and to make reliable sense of it. It's very hit and miss, and it's very track specific. Brands Hatch only gave him 11th place, Donington gave him pole position, and in the last race at Alton Park, it gave him 15th place as he failed to validate a time. We'll be catching on board though with the 607, who's just started their one-shot qualifying endeavours. So we catch on board here with Kevin Quain. If you try to pull up the data here, he is on his one-shot qualifier, the 607, currently out on track. Now, to pull away those one-shot qualifying statistics here, just so we can get a look at the map, we're also taking a look out for the number 30 and the number 119. Now, looking at the track map, the 119 is out at the moment. The 824 running into trouble down at Boulderberg Harschfeldbocht. The 119 currently on what appears to be an outlap, so no imminent danger there, as we see the number 30 also on an outlap, that being David Tangwe. So all three of the one-shot quali runners are out on track. First onto that timing chart for the one-shot qualifiers looks to be the 6:07 of Kevin Crane. As you can see in the meantime, Vincent Simard, Timo de Tosto and Richard Cecil, your top three in qualifying, nearing the halfway mark. Further down behind them, we have as we see Mario Rodriguez, Dan Jr. Poulon, Alex Albert and Julio Bahena to make 7 times on the charts here. With Kevin Crane, though, it's been a very brisk run for the 6:07. What can he make do of in a single lap around the track? Down towards the line then comes the 6:07. So we'll be catching on board next with the 1:19 on their flying lap, as we see up to second fastest. So admirable effort there by Quain. We'll see where that stacks up in the long run. Next on board is with Christian Lebay, currently on his one-shot qualifier. Now, this could be a little bit more of a watered-down qualifying session for Lebay, knowing that all of the hard work in this championship has already been done. He's already done more than enough of the heavy lifting and has now found his way to the championship. There's very little stress involved from this point on. This is an opportunity to relax a little bit, to let one's shoulders down and to play about a bit. Where better than in the one-shot qualifier? Let's see what the 1:19 does. He's out through the Turleman box. In the meantime, we've seen some serious progress here. Rodriguez third, Poulon second. So for Mario Rodriguez, this could be the perfect storm to give him a great competitive edge coming into this qualifying and the next, if we are to see the same set of results come through. The 1:19 on his way down towards the line. Number 30 will be next catching on board with, and that's the last of the 3 one-shot runners. That'll be David Tangwe. We see, though, Quain now down to 5th. Let's see where Lebay goes across the line here. And it's fastest by 0.2 of a second. Now, can anyone have a shot at that one? Try and take that one away from Lebay? That is another question entirely, one that will potentially have answers to in due course. We now catch on board with David Tangwe on his one-shot qualifier. We've caught him a little later on than we've caught the 6:07 or the 1:19, and it's looking hopeful so far. Otherwise, he would have brought it into the pits if he had invalidated like he did last week in Alton Park. It looks to be a little bit more on the fortunate side here for Tangwe on his way down through turn 10 at Jackie X in towards the start-finish line. Where can he position himself? Lebay fastest, Quain 6th. Can Tangwe put himself in the middle? Yes, he can. 3rd place there for David Tangwe in his one-shot qualifier. A solid performance for the number 30. Now the question therein remains, with the last of the one-shot qualies being served there by Tangwe. We now have our verdict of things. As you can now see, Quain 8th, Tangwe 4th, Lebay 1st. Can anyone have a chance here of taking pole position off? Nearest to the mark is Vincent Simard, the number 120, but as we're told, he's back into the pit lane. So that will next fall on the shoulders of that of the 58. Timo de Tosto, 318 thousandths of a second away from the fastest time. Now, in contrast to where he finds himself around the grid, that's about, looking at it here, 72 thousandths away from Simard. And then even closer behind him there, we can see is the scope for, looking at it, 45 thousandths between himself and David Tangwe. Now, admittedly, there's very little chance, of course, of any fight back from someone on a one-shot qualifier. So I'd definitely say more lively gap is up between 2nd and 3rd. Now, let's not take away from what's going on behind here. 3 cars separated by 0.08 of a second. Byron Forrest, Dan Poulon, and Clinton Bourne, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Out through turn 4. 2 minutes left to go, so we are heading into very quickly the discussion of the last run of flying laps. We just see here down towards the line, he's got, looking at it here, 2 more chances, with this being the first among them. Mario Rodriguez, who was momentarily inside of the top 3. It's looking to be a hopeful sign here for the 77 in the last races of the season. He's 8th place there across the line a moment ago. Julio Bahena to 9th. Number 44 across the line a moment ago. Dan Jr. Poulon maintains 6th place there. Next to the line comes the 36, Alex Albert. Can he break his way into the top 10 here? The chances do look likely for the 36. Across the line he goes, but sadly no cigar this time around. He's about 0.07 of a second thereabouts to put himself alongside, if not ahead of, Kevin Quain in 10th place. Most recent times we've just seen as well, by looks of it there, was for de Tosto, 3rd fastest in this session. And Simard opening the taps up He's back out on... Actually, no, he is not. So who was it that we saw the most recent times? I think it was Bourne there. It could very well have been Bourne. He's separate from Tanguay by 100th. We're at 14 cars, so we're at the appropriate count right now. We did sadly lose a car over the course of race 1. They're not scheduled to return because of an external emergency they're attending to, so we wish them the best in whatever is going on. So we do find ourselves with only 14 cars barreling into race 2, and that's looking to be the same story for race 3 thereafter. Now, this is pretty standard practice for most championships. With the championship being wrapped up, fewer drivers are going to turn out for it, but we've still seen double figures routinely throughout the Jaguar series, which is something I'd say that the Competizione Performance League can hold their heads high about, because very rarely could the Jaguar work in any given context. It's much like the Writer. It's a sort of a meme car, as it were. It's not to be taken that seriously, but this championship and the racing that's been involved throughout in the last 8 weeks has shown us a broadly different side to this titular GT3 car. To the line then, Clinton Bourne from 4th place. Can he take third? He takes pole! What a turnaround for Clinton Bourne. We had it in the backs of our minds here. Could it be a surprise pole for the Australian? He's on pole by 77 thousandths. What a miraculous turnaround for Clinton Bourne. And what a qualifying session he has had. It's redemption there. But what can he do now with 30 minutes in race 2? Only time will tell, but he's definitely laid a very exciting precedent heading into the second of 3 races today. Now, to give a reminder, and we'll do this every single time just to keep everyone in the loop, as it's still a very bizarre round to wrap one's head around. I mean, functionally, it is still the concept of just an extra race on top, but just to not get lost in it all, we've just left Q2 and are now going into R2, otherwise race 2, for another 30 minutes here in sunny Zolder, Belgium. And then we'll be into qualifying 3 and race 3. Having a look at the total of things for the one-shot qualifiers, LeBay 2nd, Tanguay 5th, and Quain 10th. So a pretty sizable spread there throughout the previous races' podium sitters. Now we do find ourselves with a broadly new scope of things. Among them, Clinton Bourne on that fastest. We do just see the qualifying timers did accidentally reset in the midst of it all. Well, let's bring that away. Not relevant anymore. We've got 30 minutes of racing to get into and 3 minutes before the start of that formation lap. And what an ensemble we're seeing there. Cars often confused for one another by their very similar paint scheme, but make no mistake there. There is a broad difference between the pair. Clinton Bourne on pole position then, the number 6 ahead of Christian LeBay. A surprise turnaround then for Bourne, 77 thousandths up the road. LeBay 2nd with Simard 3rd, De Tosto 4th. David Tanguay, one of the previous podium sitters. His one-shot qualifying still gave him a top 5 after all things said and done here. He starts 5th, and alongside him on that 3rd row is Byron Forrest. Dan Junior Poulon in 7th with Mario Rodriguez in 8th, Julio Bahena 9th, and Kevin Quain to round out that top 10. Alex Albert in 11th, Richard Cecil in 12th, and then on that 7th and final row, Andrew Velkamp and Christophe Dupois, the 616 and the 39, 13th and 14th. Major takeaways then from that second qualifying session is, of course, the surprise turnaround pole position for Clinton Bourne. He really did hop, skip, and leap up to that pole position by quite some distance there. He was hovering in and around the top 5, in the top 10 at the broad end of it. But that is a real swing and a home run for the number 6. But the question therein remains. We've seen his enthusiastic starts already get the better of him today in Zolder with the pressure at an all-time high. Could we be expecting him to either crack under this pressure, or like how pressure can turn coal to diamonds, could it be turning Bourne into a potential race winner today? That is the real questions on our mind. Of course, there's still plenty of other questions to be had. Taking a look there at the spread inside of the top 10, you've got a lot of drivers we saw battling throughout race 1. Simard and De Tosto were in a bit of a scuffle earlier on in race 1. We also had the topic as well of Quain and Forrest. We can see though for Quain, he's down in 10th. For Forrest, he's up in 6th place. So he's got more likely company here from last race's podium sitter, the number 30 of David Tanguay. For Forrest, he's caught between a rock and a hard place here. The 30 and the 44, they have proven to be serious customers here in the second half of the championship. And at the final stop, they have thrown the gloves off, and it is all 30 seconds. All hell breaking loose. suppose, the best term of expression for it. Let's get on board, though, with our front row. Clinton Bourne to take us away then on the formation lap. What has been an absolutely exemplary qualifying session for the Australian. The number 6 then, on pole for race 2. Now, ahead of all of the jubilations that we've had for that championship win for Christian Lebay, there is, of course, still 2 more races to run here, still 2 more names that could enter the history books in the Jaguar GT3 Revival Series. Now, to look back through those race wins, barring today's results, which have yet to be added, round 9, race 1 went to Lebay to give him his 8th consecutive race win. You can see the only other 2 names besides that of Christian Lebay to have been etched into the history books: Giovanni Badiali, round 4 in Laguna Seca; Byron Forrest, round 5, race 1 in Brands Hatch, after one of the most, if not the most, chaotic starts in Competizione Performance League history. Of course, who could forget that calamity downhill incident right off the bat? A collision between Badiali and Lebay created the biggest domino effect in this championship at the first of 2 races back in Brands Hatch. What it ultimately gave us was a bizarre shift in the power dynamic on the grid. It gave us plenty of new drivers to fight on those podium positions. Moreover, it created the perfect storm for Byron Forrest to really spread his wings and fly and take his first ever championship win. It's championship race win, I should say. So cutting away from our pole sitter just briefly to take a look down the line. One performance here that snuck through on us that could be a very interesting one to watch. Now, of course, he started from the pit lane, pardon me, in the last race, but taking a look there, the number 77, and actually qualified in the same position that he ultimately ended up forfeiting from the pit lane. 8th place for Rodriguez. Bear in mind, still very new to the championship, one of the most recent signings to the grid. Number 77 joined alongside Charlie Hookway, but he's the only remaining newbie on this grid. Hookway, sadly, a no-show for this round in Zolder, leaving Rodriguez by his lonesome on a grid of veteran drivers. He's held his own, and you've got to hand it really to Rodriguez. He's been able to roll with the punches here on what has been airtight performance by quite a few drivers around him. I mean, he finds himself, if you want to talk about between a rock and a hard place, he's got Poulon up in front of him, he's got Quain behind him. That is a tough crowd to please. Moreover, he's staring down the rear bumper of Byron Forrest, and then not too far from them is Tanguay and Itosto. So things could get very hairy for him. But let's get a look up front here, as all world's amount of pressure is on the shoulders of that number 6, heading down towards the line then for race 2 of round 9 of the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series. Clinton Bourne to take us away here into race 2. Not too far from now, 30 minutes against the clock here. Without further ado, for the second time today, we are green and racing here in Zolder, and you can see a phenomenal start by the 119 to attempt to move around the outside. Ultimately can't find the momentum, and it's turned across there by the 120 of that, I believe to be Vincent Simard. It has created a huge incident down the order. What it has allowed is Ditosto and Forrest to slip through the cracks there. Bahena following instead, and that, I believe, in the top 5 at the moment is Mario Rodriguez. What a sudden turnaround. Contact between the 120 and the 119. Not only has it allowed Clinton Bourne to soar away with the lead, 2.2 seconds before we've even hit turn 5, it has allowed a massive mix-up, much akin to what we've seen out of Brands Hatch. More on that in a moment, as there's another massive incident down the order. You can see the toll of it. The 607, the 36, the 30, the 616, and the 77 all caught up in there. And sadly, that 77, we can see right there at the back of it all, actually nearly at the back of it all, as you can see further down the line, the 39. But that is Rodriguez. A series of highs and lows in the span of the first sector. That is gut-wrenching. Back into green flags. What a sudden change of it all there for the start of this race. and it has created a massive shockwave in the order of things. You can see up the order right now is one looks to be a very, very exciting battle between that of Bahena and De Tosto. They're giving us some theatrics here in race 2 of 3. Out through turn 10 we go. The 58 vehemently defending for second place on the field after just one lap. The number 18 is properly knives out here in towards turn 1, having absolutely no regard now for his own personal safety. The number 18 moving like a thing possessed. Bahena has got the best possible chance if he can clear De Tosto to start reeling in Clinton Bourne. Otherwise, it could be the case here that we are not far from, in about 28 minutes, if they can hold their nerve, the first Australian winner in Competizione Performance League history. Moreover, it would represent one of the very rare such cases that a winner has come from outside of North America in a championship that's been dominated by Canadian and American talent. Only a few times have we seen visitors from across the pond take that top step of the podium. Giovanni Battiali, one such example. Another example that springs to mind has been that of Hayden Prodger right at the very, very end of the GT4 Pro-Am Cup. We stay on board, though, with De Tosto. This is an exciting fight coming up here for second place between himself and Bahena. But let's not count out Byron Forrest and Dan Junior Poulon there towards the back of that top 5. In the pits, then, is Quain and Dupois. The 607 and the 39 into the pits. See there, all manner of thing happening for the 18. Very awkward run through Sector 1. Ultimately, that's just going to be scooping away time between himself and the number 824, slowly gaining time on him. Out through the Kleiner chicane. Right now, the gap between De Tosto and Bourne, 4.4 seconds. So it's not been a fluke run here for Clinton Bourne. He's took the baton and he's ran with it. Whatever's gone on behind him is their own accord, because he's in a world of his own. The number 39 given a stop-go 30-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That's for Christophe Dupois. So it's gone from bad to worse here after a very short-lived run of race 2. We have more news there from the pack. The number 30 brings out the yellow flags just as we see things coming to a head here between Bahena and De Tosto. Let's not go anywhere here, as it does look like the fight is continuing to rage on. As we see, that was Bahena collided with there, seemingly in the fray between himself and De Tosto. Sadly, the cameras, for whatever reason, could not cover that. What we were trying to bring attention to, there was a yellow flag going on between turns 5 and 7, and that was for the number 30 of David Tanguay in trouble. But now we've spotted even more trouble, or I suppose what we've not spotted was more trouble. The cameras sadly couldn't give us the whole angle of what went on down at Boulderberg-Harschwildbach. What it has given us, though, is a new scope of the podium. Byron Forrest in 3rd, with Dan Junior Poulon in 4th in close pursuit there. Half a second between the 824 and the 44. Meanwhile, LeBay closing in from what is now the back of the top 5. We really did think that incident between himself and Simard in the 120 would have forced the 119 down quite a few more pegs than that. But only 5th place is nothing to scoff at still for the 119. As you can see, it is starting to become a case of three's company for the last of those podium positions. A bit of a wiggle there for the 119 on the exit of the Kleiner chicane. But Timo de Tosto is going to be sweating bullets on his way down towards turn 7. As you can see, a whole swarm of cars are in nearby pursuit. So you see here for Bahena, forced down onto the sights of the lapped 607. But you can see rather frustrated behind him is the 120. Caught up for position, losing time away from Bahena as the 607 moves to one side. Quain gives way to Vincent Simard. Looking up that order, though, we can see here for Timo de Tosto, still 1.2 seconds. He's got him at arm's length here. Nothing too much to worry about right now between himself and Byron Forrest, knowing the 824 has a much harder time. As you can see, an awkward exit out of turn 10 has given Poulon the chance that he needed to take third place off of Byron Forrest. Just a bit of a snap, a little too violent for the 824 to handle on the exit of turn 10. It happens to the best of them. We've seen it many a time already, and running out wide in through Sternwacht. What's going on here? The 824, it's gone from bad to worse as Labey rolls on through to fourth. Very bizarre stuff indeed for Byron Forrest. Number 39, stop and go, has been cleared. So for updates there on the penalty for that of Christophe Dupois, it's now been cleared out of the way. No further issues to report. We continue to look here in this fight for the back of the podium. Labey is about to get quite handsy here by looks of it for control of third place. You can see that he's not really left much up to the imagination in the course of this race. You can see up the road there is Timo de Tosto. Meanwhile, Dan Junior Poulon has got his hands full here, trying to keep the 119 at arm's range. But as you can see, much to the same as what's happened earlier for Bahena, now happens to Poulon, heading out through Jochen Rindt. You can see Bahena in the background, looks to be potentially getting a move up the inside on Dan Junior Poulon. They're squeezed in towards turn 10. It's a dicey run in towards the turn 10 complex. Meanwhile, right behind, almost pushing him through, is the 120. Could Vincent Simard have the leg up the inside? No, he won't, because he'll be to the outside at turn 1. That's why he's backed in behind. Meanwhile, the 44 looks to get his elbows out here on the number 18. Bahena's having absolutely none of it. Meanwhile, that's allowed the 120 to slip on through. The question is, can he execute a move from this point of view? No, he can't. Just doesn't have the momentum. Carried by the 44 around the outside at Sternwacht into Canal, in towards Lucien Bianchi. The 120 super late on the brakes here. Right behind him is the lapped 607. So the current scope of things here, after what has been one of the most chaotic opening 10 minutes of any race, I'd say it's still a very close act to follow from Brands Hatch. I'd still say that holds the mantle absolutely. But this has definitely been a very strong follower here in Zolder Race 2. Scope of it at the moment, leading the pack, Clinton Bourne by a landslide. Timo de Tosto second, with Christian Labey third. Byron Forrest fourth. We're watching here as Julio Bahena in fifth. He's currently being pressured for a fight on both angles. At the inside for a move of sixth place. Contact, wheel banging there between the 44 and the 120. Vincent Simard is not going to be pleased with the way he's been treated here. Admittedly, it was a bit of a kamikaze move. Was it a case that he ever had the space to make it? He did make it pretty explicitly known. The 44, though, just digs in, slams to one side. We've had it happen so many times at that area of the track. It's super dicey to get a move up the inside cleanly because there's very little turning radius these Jaguars can bring you. I mean, at this point, the only time we're ever going to get a clean move up the inside through turn 8 is if they bring forklifts to the corner, because there's just no turning radius that can be found on such a steep corner. We do see, though, was a temporary spot of bother on the exit of Lucien Bianchi. Now, that was for the number 6. We had a warning there out, a rolling white flag. Let's see if we can catch on board with the leading car, Clinton Bourne. And, oh, no, don't tell me. You can see there, that's damage on the nose of Clinton Bourne's car, so it's a lot worse than just a bit of gravel out of turn 4. It's the whole shebang. It's a front end collapse on that nose. The question there remains, if we catch on board, is there any inclination of steering damage as he makes his way out of turn 7? Doesn't look like it, but still, that front nose damage is going to be creating some drag. It's not going to be making the car particularly nice to drive, and moreover, 2.2 seconds is a lot less of the gap that he's held over the rest of the grid for the majority of this race. After a very chaotic start, it seems that his run of luck is just about up. 10 minutes through on this race, 10.5 to be precise here, and now trouble has found its way to the door of the 6 of Clinton Bourne. Tosto second. You can see that incident gave him a wedge of about 5 seconds of leverage over the number 6. So the 58 has a chance here. I would still say it is up to, I'd say, 3 cars at this time to contend for the race win. Could it be a 9th consecutive race win for LeBay? Could it be De Tosto's first championship race win in the Competizione Performance League? Or could it be Bourne's first championship race win? Now, of course, the reason I specify championship race wins over just race wins has been a fact that in the single races that have ran throughout Competizione Performance League's lifespan, we have seen a multitude of race wins from other drivers, one of which includes Byron Forrest. That's why we made the distinction in his first championship race win back in Brands Hatch. As of course, these are championship format races. They contribute to a wider championship standing, so we consider them differently than special events. Sort of in the same way that you have the non-championship events in the heyday of Formula 1 that don't contribute towards the Formula 1 World Championship. This would have been something like your Alton Park International Gold Cup. It would be a lot of the MSV circuits, as we discussed throughout the season, had this sort of thing going on. So as we stay on board with these three, just sort of enamored by the space that this has created now. So many incidents in the course of just under half the race length here in race 2 has given us a very compelling sight. 2 potential new race winners here in the Competizione Performance League for championship races, and moreover the chances for the newly crowned champion and second-time champion on air here on TRTN's coverage of Competizione Performance League to take his 9th consecutive race win on his pursuit of a serious accolade. Not only could he be in the chances to take 10 race wins, he'd be coupling that with his second championship on Competizione Performance League in the span of the same race day. Now that is really quite something. It has been absolutely ruthless this season for LeBay. Just to bring that back up, coming into today, that accolade still floors me. 83% race win. He won 10 of 12 races ran. He's on now an 8 race consecutive win streak. He's been moving like prime Verstappen through this series. It has been almost a turkey shoot at times for that 119. But today, as well as a handful of other occasions, we have seen the 119 actually have to press pretty hard to get back into competitive form, to get back onto those decent positions on the grid. It's not been an easy ride for the 119. He has been really thrown about in that opening stint of the race. The 120 colliding with the 119 into turn 1 definitely did create a moment of chaos there. A lot of cars caught up in that. Sadly, the greater majority of them have not recovered from the damages that have ensued. We are starting to see from behind a potential fight for second place coming up, the 119 versus the 58. Now, this could play very nicely into De Tosto's hands here, because as we know, and as we've seen demonstrated already, this track is not one that is easy to get moves in, at least cleanly. We've seen plenty of times where drivers have had to get their elbows out. LeBay, in a pinch, is willing to do this sort of stuff, but he is the kind of driver we've seen historically that shies away from a more aggressive move. If he's going to make a move, we've seen it to be a lot more methodical with the 119. He'll go for a move he has a good, I'd say 90 to 99% chance of making without hindering the other driver in a way of contact. If he gets collided with, it's usually the case that the other driver has collided with him more so than he's gone out of his way to hit the other driver. I'm sure that's the same kind of operating line a lot of drivers try to aim for, but we've seen no matter where he's competed that LeBay doesn't go for a move he thinks is going to be too aggressive. So Zolder is really his kryptonite, and it's been more fortunate for him that he started from pole position in race 1, because in race 2 here he's had to get his elbows out, but a lot of the drivers around him have just sort of fallen away. He's finally met his match here, because it could be stern defense as we head into the second half of the race out of Timo De Tosto. This could play wonderfully into his hands here. He can exploit that to give himself second place. Moreover, he'd just be buying time for the number 6 up in front of him, because all of that defending is going to trim time away from the number 6. It's going to push Bourne further up the road. he's basically in a very, very tough spot. Again, that concept of being caught between a rock and a hard place. The 58 can't really prioritize defense because the leading car will get away. Can't prioritize offense because he'll allow for that final equation, as it were, to come in for the 119. He'll be 90 to 99% sure he can make the move, and he will make the move. Just under 14 minutes left to go then. We're still watching the ongoing fight here between De Tosto and LeBay. But it's definitely a broadly different scope of what we normally get from these drivers. Now, when LeBay gets into a fight with someone, it's usually a lot quicker. It's a lot more sudden. But on Zolder, these two, it's almost like watching them play chess from either side of the paddock here. From about 2 to 3 car lengths in distance and speeds north of 100 to 110 miles an hour at its largest top end. These two playing a bit of 4D chess. They're having to gauge each other here, see where their corners are at their weakest, see where they leave gaps open. And on the grounds that De Tosto keeps his performance airtight, there's very few chances the 119 actually has on this track. And I think that is a large contributing factor to why Zolder is not particularly well liked in terms of its capacity to provide good races. It provides very close, very action-packed races, but ones often rife with incidents. We're about to see here, by looks of it, in the meantime that we've been crowing on about this incident, we have started to see the emergence of a fight for the race lead. De Tosto versus Bourne versus LeBay. Now, this is bounced back here onto De Tosto because it's been easy for him to defend and hold on to position away from LeBay because a lot more pressure is on the 119 to get up and around him in a place that is safe for the pair of them. But now De Tosto, with the ambition to move to the race lead against Clinton Bourne, who has not made this a particularly easy walk. Oh, it's contact on the exit of Boulderberg Haarspelbocht, and what it has created is the opportunity the 119 has been searching for throughout today's race, and pretty much sliding into his hands is that leading position. LeBay back to the race lead and onto the charts here to go for his 9th consecutive race win. Not far from now. If we try and get a look on the replay, I think it is a little too far away. Yes, so sadly we can't review what's gone on there, but what we were able to see, the number 6 caught the grass on the left-hand side on the exit of Boulderberg Haarspelbocht as they went in towards Jochen. That turned them around onto the nose of the 58. The two spiraled out, and the gap was just created for the 119 to waltz on through at a sort of leisurely pace, as it were. Therefore, LeBay, this has been definitely a bit of an emotional roller coaster. Bear in mind, he is still riding high on the successes of his championship win here in the Jaguar GT3 Revival Series. Moreover, he got turned around at turn 1, so he's already not going to be in a great mood after that. He's got his championship win, so super happy, then angry, then back to being super happy. I mean, he's going to be an emotional whiplash by the end of this race if things continue as they are, because LeBay is looking at a very bizarre first, I must say, as well. Of course, with this being the first ever triple stint event, this is going to be the first time that one driver has made their way onto the one-shot qualifying twice in a row on the same race day. And until they reintroduce it, if they are to reintroduce it, that will be the only time ever that that has happened. 10.5 minutes left to go. Getting a look at things then, after nearly 20 minutes of racing, it has been a serious emotional roller coaster for not only LeBay, but the rest of the grid as well. Taking a look there, LeBay now leads with the fastest lap. Clinton Bourne in second, Julio Bahena in third, with Byron Forrest in fourth, not too far behind him at all. At the back of that top 5 there for what could be a 3-way split of a podium is Vincent Simard in the 120. David Tanguay in 6th place. Decent recovery there for him over what has definitely been a series of highs and a series of lows to find himself dead set middle of the pack here. Nothing too bad to scoff at, just one to tuck under the rug and leave for next time. Timo De Tosto in 7th place with Richard Cecil in 8th, Dan Junior Poulon in 9th, and Alex Albert to round out the top 10 with nose damage by looks of things there. Kevin Quain in 11th place, definitely a race for him to forget. Wasn't the greatest of ending performances there in his one-shot quali. He's down in 11th. He's down even further away from where he started the race today after that huge wad of incidents we had at the start. Rodriguez down to 12th place now. Definitely a reluctant performance as well. Down 4 positions. He was caught up in the tidal wave of incidents down through turns 1, 2, and 3. He was briefly up into that top 5, but ultimately swept up in the chaos that ensued. 77 down in 12th place. Veldkamp 13th and Dupois in 14th. We've got recent news there from inside of this fight. Forest v Simard. Bahena still up the road here. And the reasoning behind it has been for that of Clinton Bourne. Now, we were slow on the update there, but the number 6 is now down to 5th place. So this has now been an upgrade. Not only is it into a fight for the podium, it is now very much so when considering Bahena's involvement in all of this. 1.7 seconds up the road. This could still be a fight for second for Simard and Forest. So Simard now up and ahead of Forest. The two both up and ahead of Bourne, where things have definitely gone from bad to worse today here for the number 6. You see there again, that pressing damage that had him earlier on in this race has not been doing him any favours. He's now even further down the crowd here, and with a chance to drop out of the top 5, he will be seething with rage at this point. It is a composure game here. He's got to start managing tilt sooner rather than later. It has not been a great race. Let's be completely frank with what we've had here. The number 6 started from pole position, but you've got to see it from his point of view. He had that incident down at turn 4. That front end damage has not given him much of a competitive edge here. He ran into that incident down at Boulderberg-Haspel, but it's just sort of been one thing after the other. It's very, very easy to get sucked into this idea that he's bottled it. I'd say it's been a series of unfortunate events for the number 6. It is gut-wrenching. It really, really is gut-wrenching when you consider that he was on the bookings here to become the first ever Australian race winner in Competizione Performance League history. So it does pain me. It does pain me in this situation to see this. But you've got to appreciate the resilience on display by him. He's still holding on to 5th place, and I imagine in his current position, he's going to be fighting tooth and nail for it in the next 7 minutes. I highly, highly doubt, after the amount of hits he's taken, that he's going to decide to throw the towel in now. He's not the kind of driver that we've seen to go down without a good fight. Discussing here as well, the 58 now on your screens. Timo de Tosto down in 7th place. He finds himself currently, if memory withstands, still 3rd in the championship. So coming into this round, he was 3rd in the championship. Started a round down as well. So much like Vincent Simard, who started a round down, we waited until Watkins Glen in round 2 of the championship before we saw either of them. And for De Tosto to find himself 3rd in the championship, that is a pretty solid accolade. Now, still in the discussion of that wider top 10, of course, is still the elephant in the room, the number 30, who started 4 rounds down to find himself in closing range of Kevin Quain there. And actually of Vincent Simard by closer proxy, 2 points towards the back of that top 5. See there, just catching up to Bourne is that of catching on board here, David Tanguay. This is in that fight for 5th place. Don't let the charts on your left-hand side fool you for a moment there. Bourne, as it stands right now, is in 6th, but a brilliant run out of turn 10. Bear in mind, this is where we could see things get properly elbows out between the two. The number 6 is not looking to lose out any more positions. It's a little bit of bumping and running there in through turn 1. Around the outside goes Tanguay. Holds on to it in through turn 2 at Störenwacht. 5 minutes left to go here. Bourne drops to 6th place. Tanguay to 5th. Looking in the scope of our top 3 here, it's Bahena for his first ever, by looks of it, here in the one-shot qualifiers, the number 18. But let's keep in mind, also going on up the road, cutting away from Tanguay, it does look to be 3's company in a growing fight. As we cut away from Tanguay now onto Simard's point of view. Let's see if we can go and catch the onboards from these drivers. Here's Byron Forrest's point of view. He's got front row tickets to this Grand Slam event. Bahena v Simard. This is all for 2nd place. So there was that theorized for some time that potentially 2nd could still be in range. Forrest is just as much involved in this as Simard is. All 3 of them barreling down towards Boulderberg-Haspel, but very, very late on the brakes there. one should remark, from the 824. That's what's keeping him in the fight. He knows this car's brakes very, very well. He's been able to use that to great effect. Down towards turn 10, and this is what I'm talking about. Under brakes, he can close the gap. That area of the track, that slightly bumpier than expected run out through turn 10 has caught so many drivers by the tail heading into this race today. 4 minutes left to go. He's lost a lot of time there, though, trying to, what looks to appear to be there, a moment of sportsmanship, perhaps a good gesture between the two. Of course, these two were fighting all the way back in Indianapolis. Now he allows, in the last couple of races here, the 607 to move on by and unlap himself. Let's catch on board, though, with the two remaining drivers in this fight, Bahena and Simard, as they go side by side on the exit of turn 5. Into turn 6 we go, with Bahena now to the inside at turn 6. He'll be to the outside at turn 7 start. He is outside and holds onto it, so very remarkably done there by Julio Bahena. He is not willing to go quietly into third place. He is going to go screaming into second. 3 minutes left to go, functionally looking on the auspice of about 2 more laps before the end of this race. We're staying on board then with the fight of second, as it is really going out with a bang here for Julio Bahena. Vincent Simard looking at his chances. Looking at Simard's results as well. This is eyeing up to be, if he can stay at least third place, his joint best result, but then also reviewing it, it's going to be, if he can get to second, his best result of the season. For Julio Bahena's point of view here, he's 10th in the championship. He has only seen his best result in the form of 4th place, and that was in the second race at round 6 of the championship. I believe that to be in Donington Park. So for him to be currently on the podium, moreover on the front row, this is a serious sign of good things to come for the 18 heading into Season 2 of the GT4 Pro-Am Cup America Series in 2026. Watching though, we're not done just yet. You can see it's a real ebb and flow in the gap between these two, where Simard is able to gain time. Bahena can gain on the opposite end of the track. These two really playing off of each other's strengths and weaknesses here. Too close to tell who's going to emerge with second place under their belt here. Both of them gunning for their best results. Out through Turleman box. We're not far from that final lap coming up. LeBay leading it after a serious up and down for the 119. He was taken out at the start of this race, came back to it for his 9th consecutive race win. Now, this is in the charge of the big number 10. He is looking for 10 race wins in a row to round out the season. As he crosses the line, I believe we are in for one more flying lap out of our drivers there. The 119 onto the final lap of the race will be catching on board with LeBay in a moment's time. After the end of this lap, coming across the line we go with Bahena and Simard. This has been a real talk of the paddock among several incidents across race 2 today. This has been a very compelling fight towards the checkered flag, and we are far from over as we've just made our way through turn 1 around the outside at turn 2. He has a great chance to leverage some good momentum for the run through turn 3 at Canal, in towards turn 4 at Lucien Bianchi. Bahena has got the world's weight on his shoulders to keep second place in his hands here. This would be his best result ever in a Competizione Performance League race. Heading in towards turn 5, Simard is really prizing at him now. Looking to emerge from his best, from what is equalising, I should say, on his best result. 3rd place, of course, back in Donington Park. Simard finally gunning for 2nd place. Bear in mind, though, we're still on one perilous run through the Turleman box. We will be looking across towards the 119 in a moment's time here as they make their way down towards turn 10. But as we stay on board with these two, it's side-by-side action all the way down towards Bolderberg-Haspelbocht and staying out around the outside, failing to capitalise as we made our way down towards the line here. The leader has finished, so he will catch on board with LeBay in a moment's time. He's took his 9th consecutive race win, wins race 2 today here in Zolder, but all the way down to the line, it has been a brilliant fight between Bahena and Simard. Julio Bahena takes his best ever Competizione Performance League result, 2nd place for the American in the number 18, equalising on his best result. Vincent Simard makes the podium in race 2. Looking though to LeBay, it's his 2nd win today, not counting the win of the championship, no less. That'll be his 3rd, and moreover, it's his 9th consecutive as the checkered flag loomed. That was really all hands on deck to see just how that would end for the fight of 2nd place. Also ongoing in the background was the fight for 4th, Tanguay v Forest. That came down to an even closer margin, actually half of the margin we saw for Simard v Bahena. So that's a shame we couldn't catch that one as well. But what a fight we have seen in today's race. A series of highs and lows throughout race 2. Looking at the podium then, it'll be a first ever one-shot qualifier for Julio Bahena. It'll be the 2nd for Vincent Simard by looks of things here. If we take a look onto the one-shot qualifying charts. Actually, no. So we are seeing 2 new names. And my mistake there. Vincent Simard will see his first ever one-shot quali, and so too will Julio Bahena. For LeBay, this is now on the riding on the auspice of his 5th appearance to a one-shot qualifier. So we did have to go back and double-check all of our notes there, but there you do have it. So not far from the discussion of qualifying 3 to bring back up the itinerary for where we're at. We've just left race 2. We're into the home stretch here, not only for today's event, but for the championship itself here in the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series. Qualifying 3 just around the corner. Race 3 on that as well. And the podium finishers for race 2 get only 1 flying lap in the qualifying for race 3. So your podium finishers here, that being Christian LeBay, Julio Bahena and Vincent Simard, will be your one-shot qualifiers. This will be the first time ever in Competizione Performance League history that a driver has taken both one-shot qualifying sessions, that being Christian LeBay in the 119. So he's really trying to speedrun as many historic accolades one can set in the span of a single race day here. He's already taken his 2nd Competizione Performance League Championship title win after his GT4 win with Chevrolet. He takes it with Jaguar here in the Revival Series. Moreover, he's not actually too far off the chances right now of taking 10 consecutive race wins by the end of today. Bear in mind, he has dominated the double sprint format. Now head into the final 10-minute qualifying session. Now to take very close note of things here, you'll be looking towards Bahena, Simard and LeBay as your one-shot qualifiers of today. Let's get on board though. As for the 3rd and final time in qualifying, first among the fray is Richard Cecil in the number 5. Taking a look back through some of those results then for LeBay, he dominated throughout the double sprint format. A bit of a fluke for him in the opening after an incident with Badiali down through Paddock Hill and Brands Hatch. That was a less than desirable result. 9th place, his worst result of the season as it stands. He was able to turn things around, though, in that 2nd race. 1st place at the end of Brands Hatch. Then through Donington Park, both of those races he won. Then through Snetterton, both of those races he won. Then through Alton Park, both of those races he's won. And so far here in Zolder, both of the races he has won. There is still 1 more to be gained. If he can do that, it is 10 consecutive race wins in a row. An unheard of accolade, one that which we have never seen before. We've seen dominant streaks. We've seen teams and drivers alike come through to absolutely decimate chances for anyone else to come along for a race win. Very rarely have we seen it get to double figures, in fact ever to get to double figures. So we'll stay on board here with Richard Cecil. A lot of heavy implications to follow out of today's event if we are to believe what is going to happen. So on to the flying laps we go then. Richard Cecil first among the fray. Now to keep note of the drivers to keep an eye out for, your one-shot runners for this qualifying session. The 119, the 30. Actually, no, sorry, not the 30. That's Tanguay. So looking into it there, it is the 119, the 18, my mistake, and the 120. I was looking at the last rung of results there on the data. So to reinstate, the 119, the 120, and the 18. Looking on the mini-map at the moment, we can see movement from the 18. Julio Bahena is out on track as we speak. As for the 119, no current word. As we actually know, we do have word now, as just having crossed the barrier lines, is the 119 leaving the paddock. And as for the third number on that list, the 120, well, they're not too far off. So we're going to catch on board here with the number... looking at it here, 18 of Bahena, not far from now. Right now, we're on board with Richard Cecil in the number 5 to see our first flying laps come to a close here in qualifying 3. So down towards the line comes Richard Cecil. We'll be catching on board next with the number 18 of Julio Bahena, as we catch on with his one-shot qualifying, his first ever one-shot quali. So this is going to be an exciting one for him. Cecil to the line, and as we predicted in the back of our minds there through that run out of turn 1, it was an invalid run. So Quain first onto the charts there, a 130.642. We're on with Julio Bahena. He's out through the Kleiner chicane. Mario Rodriguez fastest by 7 thousandths so far, 130.635 to beat. 6.5 minutes left to go. We're on with Bahena in through the Terleman bot. Then we'll be on board with the 120 of Vincent Simard, then the 119 of Christian LeBay, as he's not far from starting his flying lap. It's got to be a bit of a daunting time here for Julio Bahena. Bear in mind, it does take him some time to wind up in these qualifying sessions, and only being able to get one shot at it here. I mean, we've seen drivers crack under this pressure before. David Tanguay back in Alton Park, one such example. So for the number 18 coming to the line, speaking of Tanguay, he's now fastest. But let's see from the number 18, in towards the line we go. Julio Bahena on his one-shot qualifier, 4th fastest, so not too bad at all for the number 18. The number 120 now down towards the line. This is Vincent Simard. We just catch him at the end of his one-shot qualifier. Here comes Simard to the line. Where does he put himself? Across the line, 2nd fastest. So that's remarkable for Simard. Now the 119, who's already in towards turn 5 here. We're on board with Christian LeBay, his 2nd one-shot qualifier of the session so far. The only of this kind, really, to have both of the qualifying sessions one-shot qualies have at least one of the same driver there. He did one-shot quali for quali 2. Now he's doing it for quali 3. Moreover, it's his 5th one-shot qualifier so far. And if memory serves correctly, 5th in a row, with the first of which coming out of Donington Park at round 6. So we've seen Simard to 2nd, we've seen Bahena to 5th. LeBay, predictions currently charted at 1st. Let's see, the 119 then down towards the line, the last of our one-shot qualifier runs. In towards the line there, only 5th! That's a real shocker there for Christian LeBay. 5th place. Now that is a surprising one. He finds himself right now, nearest times to around him is looking there 30, I should say 38 thousandths of a second from Timo de Tosto in 4th place. Right now, David Tanguay and Vincent Simard lock out the front row. Simard with a real shocker there in his one-shot qualifier. He's 2nd fastest. Clinton Bourne, he's looking for revenge here, and look at the gap between himself and De Tosto. I mean, this is astronomical, folks. It's a 7,000th of a second gap we're seeing there on the 2nd row. Recent moves there. Kevin Quain, 3rd fastest now, up the road from both Bourne and De Tosto. Nearest to the line, the number 6. We're about to see Clinton Bourne back to the line. Can there be a rebuttal to clear the gap ahead of Titosto, to clear the gap over Quain? Not on this lap. And with about 3 minutes left to go, about 2 more laps to play with. The 44 crossed the line a moment ago. Dan Jr. Poulon stays 9th place. The number, looking at it there, number 30 and the number 36 were across the line a moment ago. David Tanguay maintains pole position. The number 36 of Alex Albert is now up to 8th place. The number 39 coming to the line here, Christophe Dupois. The only driver we've yet to see times from, Byron Forrest, in the 824. And is it going to be his own little attempt of a one-shot qualifier? It's a bit of a bizarre one here. Or is it a no competition run for the 824 Forest? A very, very strange set of situations to go on here. Moreover, in the case of Christian Lebay, I think this is going to be, looking through the old data, among the first times ever Lebay has not seen a top 5 start in his one-shot qualifiers. Looking at it here, his last one-shot qualifier was in today. He still found his way to the front row. Then the one before that, he was still on the front row, 2nd place in Alton Park's 2nd race. In Snetterton, same story, started 2nd in the 2nd race, Donington Park. And looking at it there, started 3rd in the 2nd race. And the only double stint event that he didn't get to do a one-shot quali in was because he didn't get onto the podium, and that was Brands Hatch, where the podium was Forrest, Anthony Cotti, and David Tanguay. Just to bring the data up there, those are the double sprint events. We don't have the data for the one just gone. That'll, of course, be all documented should ever the double sprint event format return, which we really do hope it does, because it has given us a very points-rich section of the championship where we've been able to see drivers come through and challenge from what is effectively rags to riches. I mean, look at the case of David Tanguay. He's challenging a top 5 in the championship standings. He's done half the season. He's effectively pulled a Seb Ogier here. He's been able to do less than the required amount of events to be competitive, and he's still competitive. Well, we're coming up on the final minute here of qualifying. Nearest to the line is the one who started the qualifying 3 times on the trot, the early bird here, Richard Cecil, on his way to the line. This will be on to one more run of things here in Zolder, his last ever qualifying lap in this championship. Let's see what he can do. I think we kind of owe it to him here, and I think he's thrown the towel in on that one. What a move to the line. 6th place. And we've just seen as well, a very recent shockwave amongst it all has now been the advancement up to pole in the last minute here for Kevin Quain, the 607, now fastest by 600ths. Now, David Tanguay is still out on track and could still fight this one back, as by looks of it, he and several other drivers have still got enough time here for one more lap. Among them, Clinton Bourne, who just made an advance up to 4th. Well, he's actually still in 4th, but there was an advancement closer to 3rd, but he's thrown the towel in there. Tanguay across the line has got one more lap to play with. Out through turn 1 he goes. From behind him as well was the number 36, by looks of it there. Calls it quits on his qualifying endeavours. Alex Albert 10th at the end of qualifying 3. Nearest to the line, the number 39, Christophe Dupois, on the exit of turn 10. He's 13th so far. We also see the 824s out on track, but the telemetry shows invalidated for Byron Forrest. We'll see if that's the case, though. As across the line, it was an improvement, but still 13th for the end of quali 3 is Christophe Dupois. So this is one such compelling story here. Byron Forrest on his way down towards turn 8, Boulderberg-Haschfeldbocht, and what appears to be, according to track telemetry, an invalid time by giving him the blue marker as opposed to the validated grey markers on the track map. We'll see if that's entirely the case, as looking to do his own little one-shot qualifier is Byron Forrest. Well, you've got to appreciate the efforts to challenge here. Let's see what he can do. Down towards the line. Is it going to be 14th on an invalid time, or is it going to be something else? Let's see to the line. It's 11th for Byron Forrest to the line there. Down to the line then. The 44 into the pit lane, so it's the number 30 all the way down to the line. Needs 600ths of a second to equalise to Kevin Quain, who takes it to pole position. Is it Tanguay? Is it Quain? In the last qualifying session of the season, it's going to be Quain in the 607 to take pole position on the last of 3 qualifyings, on the last of all of the qualifyings of this season here in Zolder. quite the remarkable feat indeed there for the 607. Leveraged what was a very surprising endeavour for quite a few in that one-shot qualifier, benefiting the best out of them. Vincent Simard to third place on that second row. A real surprise there, where LeBay normally has seen a very commanding presence, at least in the top two rows, no matter the conditions for the one-shot qualifier, is seeing 7th place at the end of this qualifying session. Now, perhaps, again, we could make the suggestion that this is his way of winding down. I think a lot of the hard work has been done now, and there's not much else to play for, to put himself middle of the pack. If he's done, perhaps, almost you can make the argument, if he's done a bit of a Mercedes in their prime, where they sandbag in the practice sessions and then let loose in quali. Maybe he's done a bit of a delayed version of that, sandbagging quali, let loose in the race. 7th place is a fun place for him to be fighting for. He loves to get in and amongst those fights in the pack, as we've seen as well. He was having an absolute field day in Alton Park on Sunday in his time with Aston Martin. Here, though, with Jaguar, it's he and several drivers on this grid's last ever run in the XK. And it has been a very bittersweet feeling to approach this head on. It's arrived to us all too soon, I would say. The Jaguars have been a phenomenal ensemble. And now, looking at this final grid of the season, we get one last look at the grid lined up before we go hell for leather. 30 more minutes against the clock here in round 9 of the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series. Let's get a look, though, at that last grid coming. It's Kevin Quain on pole, with David Tanguay second, Vincent Simard third, and Clinton Bourne in fourth. Looking behind there to round out the top 5 and starting the third row, Timo de Tosto alongside him is Richard Cecil in 6th. Christian LeBay, the championship winner, in 7th, and still gunning for his chances of a 10th consecutive race win. Right now, he's on 9 after the last race just gone in race 2 of 3 today. Julio Bahena starts alongside him on the 4th row in 8th place, and then on the 5th row to round out the top 10, 9th place for Dan Junior Poulon and 10th place for Alex Albert. Then on the 6th row, Byron Forrest, after also having served mysteriously a one-shot qualifier, whether by his own volition or otherwise, is 11th place, and alongside Mario Rodriguez in 12th. On the 7th and final row then, Andrew Velkamp and Christophe Dubois. So looking at this grid, 40 seconds. We're 10 seconds out from the time and where in which we can get on board with our drivers. We'll be getting on board with the 607 of Kevin Quain. Alongside him, David Tanguay, to make a very interesting top 5 there. One that is mysteriously absent of the 119. He starts down in 7th. This is going to make for a very compelling final run around Zolder, and the final run in this championship. The Jaguars have been an absolute treat. And part of me does hope for their return in 2026 in some broader offshoot series. The Jaguar XK-G3 is a car that by most stretches of the imagination is just not competitive in the modern day. This championship, though, has definitely given us a lot of sparks of hope, and even seeing its wider pronounced presence in other championships. I think one such glimmer of hope we've been seeing outside of the announcement that LeBay would be moving to Jaguar for Season 5 of the NLRL Sunday League was its appearance by the use of Pascal Stoltz in the 172 Jaguar in the HCCL Carousel Cup, in which he took that to a podium. So I think series like this and these small appearances we get to see is giving us this glimmer of hope that amidst it all, a car way past its time can be brought back in to the limelight. I think we've seen this a few times already. We've seen it with the Lexus. We've seen it with the Bentley. Is it Jaguar's turn, pray tell? Moreover, we also saw it with Aston Martin. Well, with the 607 leading us away for 30 more minutes, the last stop then on the last round. What could be potentially the last time we see this many Jaguars on one circuit. Looking inside of that top 5, this could get very feisty for the race start here. Quain, Tanguay, Simard, Bourne, and Ditosto, all capable pack fighters. We've seen them really been able to sort of spread their wings throughout this season. They've really been able to flourish in this environment. Now packed up against one another in the same top 5, with the looming presence only a single row behind them of LeBay, trying to intercept a position early doors here into that top 5 for race 3. This could make for quite the pressure cooker environment, I'd say, inside of that top 5. The one driver I am expecting to see flourish under these conditions is Quain. We've seen him really roll with the punches under this. Tanguay is going to be very ample competition. It's really a who's who as to who's going to get into the lead down through turn 1. I think it's very, very rare in this championship we've been able to have a definitive answer as to who's going to emerge in the lead, as there's still been plenty of drivers to come along and challenge LeBay, who's been more often than not the driver to be on pole position. We've had a few cases where that's not been 100% of the case. But right now, we find ourselves with a lot of those drivers that would normally be alongside, and giving those ambiguous questions now comprise the entirety of that top 5. So this is going to make for an absolute riot here. One last 30-minute run for these Jaguars. Thunder here in Zolder, the 607 leading us out through turn 10 down towards the line for the last stop here. Race 3 of round 9 of the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series, brought to you by Malwar Transport and Assure Action Transport Expert. Down towards the line then, one last run here in Zolder. Without further ado, for the last time this series, we're green and racing here in Zolder, and as you can see, a brilliant getaway from the front row, but an even better start by Vincent Simard, who already tries to make pressure on the front row, holding the inside, the 607 around the outside, the number 30, and trying for the inside almost off the bat there into Sternwacht, but can't make it. Was that of the number 30 of David Tanguay. Running out wide, Vincent Simard drops position off to Clinton Bourne, who quickly moves up to 3rd place as we make our way in towards turn 4. It's been a remarkably clean start so far, so I watch between my fingers here on the exit of turn 4 as things start to tighten up. We can see out from behind the 607, the number 30 is making solid ground. In the background, we can see there the number 6 gets things tucked in nice, neat and tidy on the brakes in towards this section of the track. I told you he'd not be making the same mistake twice. In towards turn 6, then turn 7 at the Turleman Box Complex, and this is a glorious sight indeed. Watching here the 607, the 30, the 6, the 120 and the 58 in your top 5. Further down the line, Bahena 6th, LeBay 7th, Cecil 8th, Poulin 9th, and Rodriguez in the top 10. It's already up ground there, the 77. He started from, I believe, 11th. He does find himself in 10th place. If he wasn't, then he's obviously held on. All gets a little bit confusing in a vacuum, especially when we've had 3 qualifying sessions, 3 different grids, all running back-to-back at the same circuit. Out through turn 10 we go. We can see that Tanguay's not lost sight of the race lead here. He's still 0.3 seconds off of Kevin Quain. He's held on rather nicely there. In towards turn 1 we go, onto the start of the effective first lap of this race. In the background there, Clinton Bourne goes a little bit wide in through turn 1. That's going to leave him very, very vulnerable to an advance by Vincent Simard. Has he been left high and dry in towards turns 2 and 3 on the exit of Kanalbocht? We can see up the road things are starting to spill over in the fight for that race lead. Meanwhile, the number 6 holds ground of 3rd place. Let's get on board with David Tanguay, looking at his chances here to fight alongside for the race lead over Kevin Quain. In towards turn 5 we go. Neither of them getting side by side, just following, just observing, nothing too crazy this time around. 3 minutes in, 27 minutes to go. They've got a long time to play with here, as now this is really going to tick by for them like ours. Their last opportunity to go hell for leather in this competition. What can they make of it? Down towards Boulderberg Harschbell-Bocht, we can see it's become Three's Company in contention for that lead. Meanwhile, down the order, we can see that Julio Bahena's moved over for the likes of Christian LeBay to move up to 6th place. Meanwhile, that's backed him up onto quite a few cars there, among them Richard Cecil. What could be a growing fight. Further down the line, we could see an exchange of position. That's for... Oh, never mind. Hang on just one moment. Up the order, there's been serious calamity. And between no less than the number 30 and the number 6. So Clinton Bourne's down to 14th place. And that is a real pity. We've not been able to catch exactly what's gone on down there. But if I really had to put my thinking cap on and take a wild guess, when you consider the number 30 and the number 6 were in very close stead for quite some time here. All of them contending with, at one point, Vincent Simard for the race lead, because he now out back. The number 30 is still running, now going around the outside on the 58. Pretty reasonable assumption as they got elbows out and things got ugly. We can see, though, LeBay surfing the line from inside of the top 5 here, looking to get the leg up. He's on Timo de Tosto on the run in towards the Kleiner chicane. Meanwhile, in the background, we can see it was very nearly 3 abreast at one point. 2 rows of cars going 2 abreast in towards the Kleiner chicane, and it's only going to keep carrying on with Richard Cecil surfing through the masses here to be up and ahead of what looks to be there, the 119. So Richard Cecil on a real stroke of luck here is now right up to the back end of Timo de Tosto. He's into that top 5. Meanwhile, David Tanguay's up the road. Vincent Simard's in second, and Kevin Quain leads by a landslide. Taking a look here, Cecil and LeBay side by side, turn into the wall. Goes Richard Cecil. Contact with LeBay down at Bolderberg Haspelbocht. Makes sense of that one. It's absolute bedlam here in Zolder. We can barely make head nor tail from it. Bottom line, though, LeBay up to 4th, Bahena right behind him in 5th, and look at that there, that's Mario Rodriguez. So sizable improvements from the number 77. He's been sneaking his way up there, now behind the number 18, and in well within a chance of a top 5 right now. That'll be one hell of a way to end the season for the 77. He's still quite new to this grid, but he's made quite a swift impact of it all. He's right up behind the number 18 right now. Looking at it after 5 chaotic minutes of racing, we find ourselves with quite the interesting toll of things. Kevin Quain leads with the fastest lap at the moment is to Vincent Simard. He's second, and looking behind him is David Tanguay in third. Timo de Tosto now having dropped out of 4th as LeBay up to 4th, de Tosto to 5th. And Julio Bahena in 6th, Rodriguez 7th, Poulin 8th, Forrest 9th, and Bourne 10th. We've just got word as well, Richard Cecil is out of this race. 58 looking up the inside here on LeBay. Could it get a little bit risky for de Tosto? No, not this time around the outside. And then washed out wide there was Rodriguez, now pushed onto the nose of Byron Forrest, who has not long ago got up past that of Clinton Bourne. Forrest looking up the inside here on Rodriguez. Is he going to run the risk of it? Absolutely not, in towards turn 8. Meanwhile, up the order, Bahena's getting his hands full with de Tosto. Now, this is all towards the back of the top 5. LeBay having made his way up through to 4th. He started 7th in this race. He's already up 3 positions in a little under 7 minutes. Looking down the order here, Rodriguez now forced into a tough spot here. Poulin up in front of him. He's going to start breaking away in the 44. Meanwhile, the 824 is going to be putting constant pressure on the 77 as he's got the number 6 right up his back end in towards turn 3 at Canal. Watching here with Byron Forrest's point of view of things, the man in the middle, as it were. This is in the ongoing fight for 8th place on the grid. Rodriguez up in front of him. He's alongside, nearly there, front to rear, but then backs out of it, gets back into single file through the Kleiner. Then up towards the Butte curve at turn 6. Realistically, he's looking more to fight for 9th, as looking out through turn 6, looking around the outside. Could this be a move for Clinton Bourne? Outside, then inside, then outside. And there, solidifying it. That was silky smooth out of the number 6, and a move all too reminiscent of what we see before in GT4. Dare I say it, he's managed to do the impossible. They said it couldn't be done. Like, by they, I mean we. In towards turn 8 we go. An area where Bourne has already had his fair share of troubles. This could be a capitalizing point for the 824. Bear in mind, Byron Forrest in the slipstream on Clinton Bourne to regain 9th place on the grid. Out through to turn 10, can't make any dice of it. Trying to get earlier on the throttle, but just gripping up better as the number 6, the 824, just washed out behind there in 10th place. He'll have to hold on for the next 22 minutes to be within a chance of moving up to 9th. He might just have to wait for a mistake here out of the number 6, and with a less than ideal run through Erst Corner, having more momentum as he carries it in towards Sternwacht. This is an opportunity for Bourne to potentially clip the nose here off of the 824, cut off a lot of that momentum that is going to give him the upper hand in through turn 3, in towards turn 4 in sector 1. Holding his line for the time being. Bear in mind, we're back into the fight for ninth now, watching the defending point of view on board with Clinton Bourne. Up the road, you can see Mario Rodriguez is actually pushing up toward the 44 of Dan Jr. Poulon. So there is an ongoing fight for 7th place. The 77 and the 44 getting into arms about it. Meanwhile, it's yellow flags up in front, and it's for the 607. It pushes the 120 into the lead here. Vincent Simard leads in Zolder, much to the chagrin of Kevin Quain. The man who started from pole, now dropping in behind LeBay to 4th place. That is a dramatic turn of events, and I'm starting to get rather frustrated by the fact we keep missing out on all of the big race-changing events here. We missed that collision between the 30 and the 6. Now we miss whatever happened to the 607 to push him down out of the podium in its entirety. We've been watching here with Clinton Bourne, as he breaks away. That fight of ninth is dead in the water. We see side-by-side action here as De Tosto tries to make an attack over Quain. Quain stays 4th there on his way out through turn 1. Watching here, this fight between Rodriguez and Poulon, we caught it right at its apex here as they make their way out through Canal. Mario Rodriguez up to 7th. Dan Jr. Poulon drops down to 8th and onto the nose there of Clinton Bourne. This could be Three's company for the fight of 7th place. Rodriguez, Poulon and Bourne on their way down towards turn 5. Oh, off in the background there. It looks to be an incident for the 58. The camera's cut across to reveal the worst case scenario for Timo De Tosto out of turn 5. So all 3 of these drivers have seen significant upgrade, now up to the fight of 6th outright. It's 4 cars in all with the arrival of Byron Forrest. Meanwhile, looking up the order, LeBay 3rd, Quain 4th, Bahena 5th, Tanguay 2nd, Simard thoroughly in the lead. Getting a look at the way it stands right now, 19.5 minutes left to go. We're just over the first 10-minute mark, a third of the way through this incredibly chaotic race. I thought maybe the drivers being more acclimatized to the track would have brought with it a more ample opportunity to fight, not more incidents, but that seems to come with the territory here. Vincent Simard in the lead, David Tanguay in 2nd, Christian LeBay in 3rd, Kevin Quain in 4th, Julio Bahena in 5th, Mario Rodriguez in 6th, Dan Jr. Poulon down to 7th by some way there, with Clinton Bourne actually having moved up the order by looks of things there. As there you can see a sizable mix-up. Bourne is now in 11th, Poulon in 12th. So again, what's happened for him there? Meanwhile, we'll readjust to the grid. Forrest 7th, De Tosto 8th, Velkamp 9th, Albert 10th, Bourne 11th, Poulon 12th, and Dupois 13th. We're out an extra car. Richard Cecil, I believe to be that one, the number 5 out of this race. That makes our 2nd DNF today after the 96 of Casey Miles, who was forced to withdraw during race 1 due to an external emergency. This one, by looks of it, looked to have been due to damage. Looking here towards the back of the field, the 44 and the 6 looking to be getting into an arms fight here for 11th place. Poulon v Bourne down towards the Turleman box complex at turn 7. One of the nearest fights on track at the moment. 0.3 of a second between the number 6 and the number 44. Out through turn 8 we go in towards turn 9. To keep in close mind here, there could be a fight going on between Andrew Velkamp and Timo De Tosto, the 616 and the 58, not too far at all from one another as they exit turn 10. Watching with these two, though, however, we're on board with Dan Jr. Poulon. Currently in the ongoing defensive fight of 11th place from his point of view. Having dropped some significant wad of time there through turn 1. This whole area of the track has been incredibly awkward for the number 6. This has been now the third race in a row where things have not been going super swell for Clinton Bourne in that opening sector. It's been his Achilles heel here in Zolder, and it is a bit of a tough section of the track to master despite its relatively simplistic nature. Only 4 corners, but it's 4 very awkward corners with very little area of recognition of the ideal braking spot. The markers are quite minimal in that opening sector. Reference points are often dependent on the weather sometimes. You see that being forced to cut part of the Turleman box. Troubles on the brakes for the 44. We'll cut away from them for the time being just to get a look on board here. Vincent Simard leading this race after that recent trouble for the 607, now having dropped 3 positions to 4th. Something to bring into the sort of minds of both us and the viewers at home is the notion right now that that gap between the leading 3 is starting to compress. Lebey's gaining on Tanguay, Tanguay's gaining on Simard. We are looking at the crunch phase of a long-winded concertina effect between these 3. So there could definitely be the chances here for some fighting for the race lead. Right now, we find ourselves in an almost mirror match situation that we saw out of the last race. 2 new drivers to potentially become race winners. And what ended up happening in that last race was Lebey moved on to make his 9th consecutive race win, much to the chagrin of both drivers involved. Could today be the day that that splits and we finally see someone interrupt what has been an insurmountable tide of successes for the 119? Or are we about to see the mythical 10-time race win? In a row, I should point that out as well. Consecutive. The gaps are looking healthy right now between Tanguay and Simard, and I think that's really all the 120 can focus on besides his own line, is keeping that gap healthy. He needs ample space here. We're just about halfway into this race right now, and he still leads by 2 seconds. These are hopeful signs for the 120. Bear in mind, it was towards the end of last season in GT4s where we got a surprise win. That was out of Hayden Prodger, became the first ever British driver to win in Competizione Performance League. He did so with Aston Martin in Misano at the final round of the championship. Could it be the same case here where a new driver comes through to win in this championship, to get their first ever championship win on the final round? The odds right now for Lebey to win sits at around, if we're talking percentages, about 66% right now. So still heavily in his favour. A little over that halfway mark is all the confidence he requires at this time. Nearest target, you can see the distance there. It's only about 7 or 8 car lengths on their way in towards Boulderberg-Haspelbocht at turn 8. Then out through Jochenrennt at turn 9. Looking around the track for the nearest fights going on at the moment, there is one starting to gain traction here between Bahena and Quain, 1.6 seconds, and closing between the 18 and the 607. Looking further down the line, we've also got recent troubles there by looks of it for the 44. Dan Junior Poulin currently 12th place, having trouble through turn 7. Ultimately, he's lost a lot of stead there over Clinton Bourne. Now moves up to 11th place, 2.5 seconds up the road. Very little chance at this time for rebuttal. Looking further up the road, we see here the emerging fight. Now, I wouldn't say it's a fight straight off the bat. We have seen these drivers very close to one another at one point, and if they can swing things back in their favour, and by looking at it there, the gaps are really not too far off one another and actually well within a chance of challenging for the position ahead. There could be a 3-way fight here between Velkamp, Di Tosto and Forrest in the next 12 minutes. Of course, bit of a tall order right now. I think still the closest fight anyone is thinking about in this time is between Simard and Tanguay. 1.4 seconds. And bear in mind, he's starting to enter a bit of a stalemate here as the gaps are starting to level out between not only the car in front, but the car behind. One silent procession to a fight as well to consider as well. Yet to have kicked off into an active phase of it, but it could be that fight going on right now for 7th, Forrest v Di Tosto. Oh, hang on just a tick there. We caught on board with DeTosto just as we were scrolling around, and now we found not only damage for the number 58, but now he's also dropped position. Unless I was just going crazy there, and it's always been the case where the 824 has been ahead. Honestly, at this point, it's, what, 3:32 in the morning. If it has been the case that it is, it's not like I would have figured it out by now. I am going genuinely crazy. We are seeing here very close gaps, mind you, out of turn 1 into turn 2 between the 18 and the 607. Half a second now between Quain and Bahena. We'll stay on board here just with Julio Bahena. We'll keep a track on what is going on at the front between Tanguay and Simard. Right now, the gap nowhere near as close as we're seeing it between these two towards the back of the top 5. Right now, with Julio Bahena and the number 18 car attacking for this fight of 4th place, the chances still look lively for him to challenge Kevin Quain. On the exit of the Kleiner chicane, we're heading up into a section of the track that he can follow very closely through. He's already demonstrated that he can follow pretty decently through this track. In the middle and final sector. Let's see what he can do in toward the Terleman box. Just to bring to your attention as well, in terms of the gaps up front, it is starting to swing back in favour of a potential fight for 2nd. LeBay versus Tanguay. Right now we're watching the fight for 4th. Bahena versus Quain. You can see the top 3 there just up the road heading down towards turn 10, and physically you can see that gap is much closer now for 2nd than it is for 1st. Trouble for the 616. We'll cut away just a moment here. Yellow flags are out. It's for Andrew Veldkamp in trouble. Let's see if we can catch on with him. He's just been forced to retire to the pits. And looking at this position on track, I fear the worst may have come for the 616, as it could be that kink we saw to the left-hand side on the exit of Terleman box might have finally caught someone. And sadly, it has caught them all too late. The 616 may have just fell victim to that sudden jut out to the left. If we watch on with these 3, we'll actually find that point a little later on. We'll stay on board, though, man in the middle here, as the gap I did mention before. This was all part of a long-winded concertina effect, as they're all starting to close in on one another. We are about to see, potentially, in the next couple of laps, a serious fight for the lead here. Could it be the first race win for Tanguay? Could it be the first race win for Simard? Could it be a 10th consecutive win for LeBay? There's your stakes, and there you can see that left-hand side, how far the wall comes out towards the track limits. If you end up running wide out through that area, you need to pray that you can get the car turned in before that wall, or you're getting pinballed into the right side of the track. That is going to act as almost a ramp to send you screaming across to the other side of the track very quickly. Quickly just looking out behind here for that fight of 4th place. Bahena v Quain still going on, still in en passant right now. The number 18 still chasing the 607. Not a lot of ground gained or lost. They're stuck in a bit of a stalemate here with just under 9 minutes left to go. Taking a look then, after what has been 20 minutes of racing, we may be in for another DNF as we watch here. Trying to go at the inside. The number 18 on the 607 has to back out. Just briefly on that topic as well, that we could be in for another DNF out of the 616. A big hit there out of turn 7 for Andrew Veldkamp. They'll be joining Richard Cecil in DNFs for this race if he is to retire. Right now, though, Vincent Simard leads from David Tanguay. Christian LeBay 3rd with the fastest lap. And we're seeing here 4th and 5th, Kevin Quain in the 607 and Julio Bahena in the number 18. In 6th place, Mario Rodriguez in the number 77. Byron Forrest in 7th place. Timo Tosto in 8th. Alex Albert in 9th. And Clinton Bourne in 10th. Dan Junior Poulin in 11th. Christophe Dupois 12th. And so I'm told here the 616 of Andrew Veldkamp looks to be out of this race. So 2 DNFs in this race. A bloodied end then to a saga of fighting, not only in Zolder but over the course of the last 8 weeks in this series. It has really been one to behold, and we're seeing the final fights start to play out here in the closing 8 minutes. No current updates then from the podium, so we'll stay on with this fight towards the back of the top 5. We are told at this time of a fight going on further down the field. That's between the 36 and, by looks of it there, the number 6. So that's Alex Albert versus Clinton Bourne. That might be one to watch in a moment's time. And so I'm also told we will be cutting away from this fight inside the top 5 as the gap has started to slam shut between first and second place. So we have now a war on 3 fronts here. Bourne v Albert, Bahena v Quain, and Tanguay v Simard. 6.5 minutes left to go, and a bit of a dicey run in through the Turleman box could give away the race lead here for Vincent Simard. David Tanguay is in pursuit and is not backing down, not at the final post here. 6.5 minutes to the line, looking for the inside, backs out of it in towards Boulderberg Harshbell box. This is where it could all kick off. Let's see if we can catch on board with these two. We just saw on the exit of turn 7 was a little bit of trouble for Bahena, but let's go on board with Vincent Simard. This is in the fight for first, and it's all hands on deck here for defense of the lead for Vincent Simard. He came through to take that lead off of the 607 of Kevin Quain. He's held on to it tooth and nail for upwards of 25 minutes in race 3 today. What can he do as now we drop into the final 6? Can he handle the heat, or does he need to get out of the kitchen? That's the real question here with the 30 and the 119 breathing down his neck. Can he handle the pressure? You can see with these Jaguars, they're a real handful for available grip. Very easy to spin, as we've seen several times throughout today. Not the most stable ensemble. Throw them onto a track with a metric ton, nearly said a word I shouldn't have said, a metric ton of curbs. It is a very difficult mixture to play with. The 824 brings out the yellow flags, and that's for Byron Forrest out through turn 3 at Canal Box. Trouble for him there, and that means he's going to drop a considerable wad of time away to the 36 and the 6, approaching from behind. Meanwhile, the 607 still fighting with the 18. We're watching with a 3-way fight here for the race lead. Vincent Simard versus David Tanguay versus Christian Lebay on the exit of Jochen Rindt. Looking at it here as we approach about 4.5 minutes as we get down towards the checkered flag. What that's going to give our drivers is, looking at it there, just about 3, if not 4 more laps to play with. I think, looking on the generous side of it, they're 3. Actually, yeah, dead on 3. I've done the maths in my head there, just roughly. Just about, or just under 3 more laps as they drop just below the 4.5 minute mark as they hit the checkered line. 0.3 of a second between Tanguay and Simard. Now, if either of these two make any kind of mistake, that's purely to the benefit of that 119. So it hangs thinly in the balance here. Could it be a 10th consecutive for Lebay? He'll be praying these two run into trouble somewhere up the line. Trouble could come a knock in here for the 120. We've been seeing routine understeer in Sector 1, and he's only 1, maybe 2 inches away from collecting a serious amount of dust on that left-hand side, and that can spell doom, as we've seen on several areas of the track before. It doesn't take a lot to spin these Jaguars around. Often it doesn't even take the dirt itself. In through turn 7 we go. Holding his nerve so far, Vincent Simard. Still in pursuit, David Tanguay. Christian Lebay watching from behind, waiting to make his move. 3 minutes, 20 seconds left to go. We'll make our way out through Boulderberg Harshbell box in towards turn 9. We can see up the road there is the lapped car of Christophe Dupois, the number 39. To give an update on the battles going on around the field, the number 6 is now past the 36. That gives Clinton Bourne an extra position. The number 607 still is holding off the number 18. So as of right now, the number 607, that is Kevin Quain, still holds on to 4th. And Alex Albert now down to 10th and then some, because he's run into serious trouble down at the Turleman box. He could be down to 11th as he's allowed now the gap to slam shut between himself and Dan Junior Poulon, now down in 11th place. Number 6 runs into trouble, and I believe in the unthinkable spot that we saw from last time. Let's see if we can go and catch quickly with Clinton Bourne. Yes, yes it is. It's catastrophic damage for the number 6. In the same area that caught the 616 earlier on today, it seemingly has 2 caught, that of Clinton Bourne. Ping-ponged out of turn 7. In through turn 6 into turn 7. The number 6 is into the pit lane. by the looks of it there. The 607's in trouble. That being the likes of Kevin Quinn. That was down at the Kleiner chicane. That's given Julio Bahena easy route through to 4th place on this grid. Simard still holding his nerve. Icy cool for the 120. Only one more lap coming up from here, and it could be his first ever win in Competizione Performance League history for the number 120. He started a lap late, not a lap late, sorry, a race late into this championship. Joined us from Watkins Glen onwards, and it's been a constant pursuit of perfection for the 120. He saw already today his first ever one-shot quali. What can he do now with the opportunity as we drop on to the final lap? It's all or nothing for the 120. Bear in mind, he's not alone in this fight. The number 30 is looking for a slice of the pie here. Who of these two could take their first ever race wins, or will either of them slip and give rise to a 10th for LeBay? Only time will tell on the exit of Canal in towards Lucien Bianchi. Bear in mind for Simard, his best result before today was 3rd place in this championship. Got it in the 2nd race of 2 at Brands Hatch and the start of the British leg. So this is what they call in the industry a serious improvement of form. Heading in towards turn 7. It's all or nothing for Simard. His heart will be pounding out of his chest right now after the kind of performance he's had out through qualifying 3. Out through turn 8 we go, still being closely pursued, but he's run into traffic at possibly the worst time to see it, and trying to get just a little extra slipstream off of the 39. He's fought his way all the way down towards turn 10 at the last leg, the last race, the last round, and it won't be a series of lasts for him this time around. I think, will it be just before the line there, onto the final lap, the checkered flag's out, and it's the first for Vincent Simard. The 120 wins in Zolder on the last hurdle. What a performance by Simard. What a way to close out the championship for the number 120. His first ever Competizione Performance League race win. He joins the winning charts there alongside what has been a measured dominance by Christian LeBay. In the terms of the single-time race winners this season, he'll join Giovanni Battiali and Byron Forrest as the unique names on the chart outside of the era of LeBay dominance that has governed this championship by and large. What a performance by Simard. That was ice cold. Looking at the rest of the grid then as that stands, getting in towards it, Tanguay 2nd, LeBay 3rd, Bahena 4th, Rodriguez in the top 5. A silent procession for the newcomer, his best result so far. What a turnout for the 77. We'll see if that's the whole case there, as I think maybe we will double check. There's 12 cars. Making sure no one's left. We will actually wait there for the full results. If I am reading this correctly, that is a seriously good result for the number 77. He's been working towards good results throughout today, throughout his short time in the series. To be making his way to the top 5 is a real good way to wrap this out just before Christmas. So we'll wait for that full verdict. I'm pretty sure we are in that run of it now. So taking a look here, Vincent Simard wins in race 3. David Tanguay in 2nd. Oh, hang on. We are having drivers leave here, so we will be checking for that final verdict result. As we are, I believe they're waiting for one driver, Bahena. So that's a very bizarre one indeed. I don't know if we'll actually be able to read the full results, because this is definitely come as a bit of a bizarre one. Let's take a look here in race 3. Yeah, we are seeing there's drivers omitted from that board because they've not... Oh, this is very strange then. Well, the bottom line, we do remember the podium. That was Simard, Tanguay and LeBay. And if what we were reading was correct, it was also a top 5 for Rodriguez. We'll be waiting around here to see if anything does change. We'll also be getting a word out of the crowned champion of the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series. We'll be getting a word not too far from now out of Christian Lebay. We'll also try and get a word out of a few other drivers on the grid as well. There, we finally do get a final result. Vincent Simard wins in race 3. David Tanguay second. Christian Lebay third. Julio Bahena fourth. Mario Rodriguez in fifth. A brilliant result to round out this season for him. Timo Tosto in sixth with Kevin Quain seventh. Byron Forrest in eighth. Alex Albert ninth. Dan Junior Poulon in 10th. Christophe Dupois in 11th. Clinton Bourne seemingly looks to have finished 2 laps down there. Andrew Veldkamp in... yes, actually we do remember now because there was that catastrophic damage from right at the very end. Veldkamp in 13th, Cecil 14th, Miles 15th. Of course, all of those DNFs in this race. But the takeaway point there, out of this round, not only has it been a championship for Lebay, it's been 9 consecutive race wins, ultimately interrupted by Simard's first ever in a Competizione Performance League championship race. So very, very well done to him. We'll be getting a word out of a few drivers in due course, so do bear with us. Obviously, first among the fray is going to be that conversation with Christian Lebay. He's just been crowned champion of this series. So let's see if we can go and get a word out of him. Good evening, Christian. It's Regan from TRTN. You're live on air. How does it feel then? 2 championships under your belt now. First GT4s, now Jaguars. That's got to be a good feeling.
Yeah, sir. It was not easy at all. That Jag was not a machine that everyone, I think, liked to drive on the track, but it was perfect. It was really, really something. And how can I say? I'm feeling very well about that. Very, very good.
And so I'm told as well, you'll be competing back with Chevrolet back in 2026 for season 2 of the Jaguar, not the Jaguars, of the season 2 of the GT4s, I should say.
Yeah, I'll be back behind the wheel of the Camaro again. That car, I'm sticking it. You know, that car is very well made for me, so I know what to do with it. So, and first of all, on behalf of the league, I want to say how proud we are of everyone participation in that series, because the Jag, it's not an easy car to drive, and to see the all the interest of all drivers, we are really about that. And the level of competition and respect on track and commitment from all drivers are truly appreciate from our league. And we are excited to see the league grow, and this is only the beginning, you know. So I'm very happy.
Thoroughly looking forward to it, mate. Well, enjoy your evening. Enjoy the successes you've had so far. 9 consecutive race wins and a second championship in the same day. That's got to be a great feeling.
Oh yes. And tonight, you know, the format for 3 race and 3 quali, it was really intense. I think from everyone. 2 times I did, you know, the flying lap qualification. It was really intense. On the last race, not able to catch Tanguay and Simard at the front, so very well done from both driver. My car was slip. I beat the car too much, I think, the first 15-20 minutes.
Well, very well done today. Yeah, just enjoy what has been of this season. It's been a fantastic championship. It's been nice speaking with you.
Perfect, and thanks for your good work and your cooperation in that league, Mr. Clark. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate your work.
My pleasure. Take care.
Take care.
So that was Christian Lebay, your champion for the Jaguar GT3 Revival Series by Competizione Performance League, powered by Malware Transport and a Sure Action Transport Expert. Another driver we're going to try and get a word out of here ended up second place in the championship. It is going to be a word out of Byron Forrest. Now, it's been a bit of a rough ride for him today, but still a great championship to walk away with. Let's see if we can get a word out of him. Hi there, Byron. It's Regan from TRTN. Decent season, all things considered. A bit of a rough ride today here in Zolder, but walking away with your head held high.
Oh yeah, man. It was a tough season, man. A great season with the team MRT. You know what I mean? The league CPL, man. It's been a success. Like, you know, sim racing for me is a whole new journey, and you know the brotherhood that we were building here is pretty dope, man. Like a full grid of clean racers, man. It's a challenge every race. Me and Toasty and me and Kevin Quinn had a lot of crazy battles throughout the season.
And it's been definitely quite a series of highs for you this season. Of course, out of the GT4s, when you were still with Porsche, of course, best result of that season was 4th. You ended up 4th place in the end of that championship. You come into this one, you got your first ever championship win under your belt, and moreover, you finished 2nd by a landslide to the rest of the grid. So it's got to have been a really good feeling for you over the course of the last 8 weeks.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. In the GT4 series, that Porsche was a little, behind the 8 ball. So it was just a challenge for me personally, trying to get the most out of that car. But a series like this, where everybody's driving the same car, it kind of alleviates that. And especially the Jaguar being a car that nobody really driven before, is like such a challenge. You know what I mean? So, hey, it's just about improvement and trying to find pace.
And so I'm told as well, for your 2nd season in GT4, you'll be moving to, and if I'm not mistaken, Aston Martin. What's the reasoning behind that?
I've never driven it before. I just want to give it a shot. Like, I don't always like to drive the same car everybody else drive, but I also saw, some people be competitive with the Aston. So I'm gonna give that a shot. I know it's probably not underpowered like the Porsche.
Well, I'll be looking forward to seeing how that pans out for you in 2026. Fantastic season for you as well. You've done very, very well to stay competitive all the way to the last hurdle here. It may not have been the best of runs, I imagine, for you coming away from Zolder. It's been a bit of a rocky road, but still, you hold your head high there because it has been a fantastic season for you.
Oh, yeah. Zolder's a tough track for me, man. Them chicanes, they get me every time. You know what I mean? But it's cool, man. I wrapped up 2nd in the championship. I'm appreciative of that. Like, we appreciative of you for your commentary. You one of the dopest commentators I ever heard, man. So keep doing your thing, bro.
Yeah, my pleasure, my pleasure. It's been brilliant commentating for these races, to see drivers come out and show all the support for this very niche car. I mean, you don't often get to see the Jaguars on any grid, let alone a full grid of Jaguars, and you've done a phenomenal job, as well as many other drivers on the grid. So, enjoy the time that it's been of this, and enjoy the rest of your evening as well. I mean, you've walked away with a fantastic result, all things considered.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate it. You have a good evening, too. I hope everybody else has a good evening, and I look forward to seeing everybody this next season.
Right. Have a good evening. Take care.
I appreciate it.
So that was Byron Forrest, 2nd in the championship. One of his best championship results so far was by, like LeVay, a landslide ahead of the competition. And it's been a very, very solid season for those two as well. They were far and away gone coming into this round. It was really a 2-horse race coming into Zolder. I think that concludes just about all of our driver interviews. Now, in terms of what's coming around the corner for us, we're still reviewing the calendar dates, of course, and we can't confirm anything at this time, but we are sizing up a look, and we do have the name for it now as well, the Competizione Performance League GT3 Triple Crown Enduro Series. Now, this is the winter series coming up starting this Sunday, by the looks of it, the 21st of December, and then the following Sunday on the 28th, just before New Year's. And then January 3rd, which, if I'm not mistaken, is actually a Saturday the week thereafter in New Year's. All of them are 2-hour races. And the calendar right now, Imola, Monza, Suzuka. Very curious to see what the thought process was behind those 3 tracks. Imola, fantastic circuit. Not really gone wrong there. It's good for endurance racing. It's good for sprint racing. It's a decent mix, I'd say. It's definitely a good choice. Monza's always a brilliant circuit to go to. It's always brought a unique blend to the championship. Suzuka, I'm excited to see on there because I feel like it can be a bit of a Marmite track. It could either be really good or really bad. Often, though, I think we've been blessed in seeing that it's in a majority of good races there at Suzuka. So that's going to be curious to see where that goes. Now, we will try and work on that over the course of this coming week. And hopefully, all things said and done, you might be seeing us this Sunday, where we thought maybe today on Wednesday, 17th of December, we'll be wrapping out our calendar dates with the VSR Phoenix race coming up later on today at Kyalami. We could actually be seeing a few more races before the end of 2025, heading into 2026. But for right now, that's the end of what has been a fantastic championship here in the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series, wrapping up on what has been a brilliant, brilliant series, taking a look back through those race winners and adding on to the results from today. Round 9, Race 1, Lebay. Round 9, Race 2, Lebay. Round 9, Race 3, Vincent Simard. So that does give you some very interesting notes to come away from. 3 unique names outside of Lebay's streaks of wins, Badiali, Forest and Simard. And then the rest of it has been a one-man show. Absolute dominance by the 119, but a brilliant season for quite a few on the grid. And that'll all but sort of wrap it up there. We can see the last of the drivers there on the grid. You know what, as a matter of fact, hang on just a moment. Let's see if we can get a word out of Timo de Tosto. It might be worth the shot here since he's waited around on the grid. Hi there, Timo. It's Regan from TRTN. I hope we're not keeping you from anything, and thought we'd just catch up for a chat right at the very end of the championship here.
Oh, no problem.
It's been a brilliant one, has it not? It has been a really, really solid one. Looking at those standings coming in before today as well, you were in a very confident podium position. I'm pretty sure you have actually, by looking at the points here, you've come away with the podium in the championship. So like Lebay, like Forest, you've revelled in a brilliant, brilliant performance. Bear in mind, quite impressive as well when you consider you started a round down. You actually joined us for Watkins Glen. So how's the season sort of been for you?
Yeah, it was a interesting one. I'm surprised I ended in third place in the points because I really didn't have much time or availability to really put my full attention toward it. But Zolder has always been good results for me, even though I don't particularly like the track too much. So it's a bit of a weird one for me. But yeah, I'm glad the races tonight were a lot of fun.
Well, it's been a fantastic opportunity to come along and commentate for all of these and to see drivers like yourself on the grid, where it's been pretty much moment-to-moment action. It's not often been a case where we've had a dull race, especially in this second half coming into the double sprints and now the triple sprint today. Would you say that the double and triple sprints, that's sort of been a major deciding factor for a lot of drivers, including yourself, into the how enjoyable this series has been for you?
Yeah, I thought the double was cool, and then the triple was just another layer to it. I think it added some mental stamina in there as well. I think people were starting to lose focus, me included. Made a couple mistakes in the last race, but yeah, it was fun. I think race 2 was my favorite one, even though it ended in a bit of an incident, but you know. It was fun up till that point. It was kind of a trilogy in its own, on its own, that second race.
And looking into the road ahead for 2026, of course, you've re-entered for Season 2 of the GT4s. And this time, Chevrolet. What's going on with that, Chevrolet?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm gonna drive with the Camaro in the second season GT4. I'm much more comfortable in a mid-engine car, and that's just across the board with any sim. So I'm kind of looking for something that I'm a bit more comfortable with, and that I can work towards having a more competitive pace consistently, hopefully.
So the choice of Chevrolet is more of a placeholder on the sim grid at the moment, because that's where we were gunning the idea from. We've seen a lot of people make some moves around. We spoke earlier on with Forrest, and he's moved over towards Aston Martin. So we were curious to chase up with a few drivers, including yourself, and sort of what's been the deciding factor around it. But if it's a case where, you know, Chevy's just there as a placeholder, where would you be aiming? Like, perchance, would you be looking more towards Porsche, McLaren? I mean, with mid-engine cars, at least in GT4, you've only really got a handful of options, and I know the Porsche's more rear-engined than anything.
Yeah, I think the McLaren is the obvious choice for mid-engine cars. So yeah, I'll do some testing and see how that goes. Hopefully I figure it out relatively quickly.
Well, all the best to you. It's been a great championship for you, walking away with pretty decent results, all things considered, especially given the circumstances surrounding it. I'd say just, you know, enjoy what's been of this season, enjoy the rest of your year, and we'll probably be seeing you pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for the commentary. Thanks for LeBay for all the organization that he does behind the scenes, and yeah, looking forward to next year.
Well, all the best to you. Take care.
All right, see ya.
That concludes the last of our interviews for today. Timo de Tosto, pretty certain by the points that he has come into the podium just at the very end there. He was in a very close fight with Kevin Quain. If not, then we will amend the notes for the next time we come to you from the Competizione Performance League calendar of events. But otherwise, it has been a real pleasure working alongside these drivers and working alongside the race organisers at Competizione Performance League over the course of the last 8 weeks. Of course, to bring back up as well, all of these broadcasts would not be possible without the support of both Malwar Transport and Assure Action Transport Expert, the primary sponsors of not only this championship, but its coverage here on TRTN. They've been behind us every step of the way, and their continued support of our work and these championships is what makes all of it come together and makes all the gears turn in this mighty mix that is this championship. That's all from us then, and that really is the close of it. No more interviews from here on out. That's all from us here on TRTN. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care and good night.